As the great shaman kept in reserve by the family, it was customary to avoid appearing before outsiders, lest the hidden strength of the family be exposed. The moment the great shaman disappeared, a tall young orc appeared at the entrance of a cave. Rongu raised his head. Upon seeing the visitor's face, a smile instantly spread across his own. Well, if it isn't Lang Yen from the Grey Wolf tribe. What brings you here today? Lang Yen tossed the token in his hand, seemingly unbothered by the mess scattered across the ground, and walked forward at his own pace. I've come to collect the sea crystal sand, as agreed upon at the previous price.
Ah, well.
Rongu's face showed a trace of embarrassment. There's been a slight issue on my end. Could you perhaps come back in a couple of days?
Fine.
Lang Yen glanced indifferently at Inshoa, lying at Rongu's feet, his tone as cold as ice. Since the young Master Rong is busy, I won't disturb you. I'll return once you've dealt with that man. What do you mean? Rongu detected the underlying meaning in Lang Yan's words and instinctively glanced at Inshoa. You know him? Know him? Lang Yan let out a cold laugh, a shadow of malice flashing in his dark eyes. He abducted the person most important to me. I'd tear him apart with my bare hands if I could. Is that so? Rongu narrowed his eyes, scanning Lang Yan from head to toe as though trying to discern if he was lying. However, the savage hatred in the man's eyes was all too real to be feigned. Finally, Rongu spoke. If that's the case, how about I hand him over to you? Will that do? Are you serious? Lang Yan licked the corner of his lips.
Of course.
Rongu tossed the bone blade in his hand to Lang Yan. Just make sure he never shows up alive in front of me again. What you do with him is up to you. In that case, I'll gladly accept. A satisfied smile tugged at Lang Yan's lips as he called out to He Mu, who was waiting outside. Pointing to the unconscious Inshoa on the ground, he said, "Take him with us." He Mu nodded silently, slung Inshoa over his shoulder, and left. Watching the two figures disappear into the distance, Rongu could hardly contain his laughter. Inshoa, oh Inshoa, don't blame me for your death this time. With Lang Yan, that four-mark beast totem demon, on your tail, even if you don't die, you'll never escape your fate. Ha ha ha. On the other side, after carrying the unconscious Inshoa out of Rongu's stone dwelling, He Mu finally couldn't hold back and quietly asked, Lang Yan, why are you saving him? Lang Yan cast a glance at the city guards trailing a short distance behind them and simply replied, Don't talk now, just move quickly. All right. He Mu seemed to realize something, swallowed his curiosity, and quickened his pace. It wasn't until they had exited the city gates on the eastern side that Lang Yan's vigilant expression slightly relaxed. But He Mu's face darkened. Lang Yan, he doesn't seem to be doing well. Not doing well? Lang Yan turned his head at the remark, only to see Inshoa's face, which now appeared as though it had been branded with burning iron, glowing an alarming red. Not only that, but his entire body felt as hot as boiling water, the scorching temperature almost unbearable for He Mu, who struggled to carry him. What's wrong with him? Could Rongu have poisoned him? He Mu asked in panic. Unlikely.
Lang Yan frowned deeply.
Inshoa didn't seem poisoned. His condition looked more like. Suddenly, Lang Yan noticed the vibrant beast totem on Inshoa's neck beginning to spread outward. This scene was eerily familiar. It was exactly like what had happened to him when he had broken through. Studying his thoughts, Lang Yan said in a low voice, He Mu, don't make a scene. Let's find a safe place for him as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, on Su Qianqian's side, the auction had entered its most intense stage. With thousands of items already sold one after another, the prices of the current lots had reached tens of billions, igniting the atmosphere in the auction hall. The tension was palpable, and the excitement was at its peak. Excellent. Now, let's look at the next item. Even the usually monotonous mechanical voice introducing the items seemed to carry a hint of excitement. This is a celestial treasure from the immortal realm, the Runshan fruit. As soon as the words Runshan fruit were spoken, the electronic screen flickered, displaying a fruit the size of a fist. The fruit's appearance was eerily human-like, with a plump body that had tiny limbs and facial features resembling those of an infant. Its little face, which bore an uncanny half-smile, looked so vivid and lifelike that it seemed ready to leap out of the screen at any moment. Seeing this, Su Qianqian couldn't help but shiver. So this is the legendary Rentian fruit? Why does it look so creepy? No wonder Tang Sanzang didn't dare to eat it. If it were her, she wouldn't dare touch it either. This Rentian fruit takes 10,000 years to mature. It falls when it encounters metal, withers when it meets wood, dissolves in water, burns in fire, and disappears into the earth. A single bite can extend one's lifespan by 47,000 years, and merely smelling it grants an extra 360 years of life. As the mechanical voice introduced the item, Su Qianqian could feel the atmosphere in the first-floor hall growing increasingly tense. When the base price of 30 billion was announced, the hall instantly erupted with a cacophony of bids. 38 billion. 40 billion. 50 billion. The bidding frenzy grew louder and louder, but then a calm voice from one of the private VIP boxes on the third floor cut through the chaos. 100 billion. A single bid of 100 billion crushed all competition from the first-floor hall. The entire hall fell silent. No one dared to raise the bid. Su Qianqian was speechless. 100 billion for a fruit that extends lifespan. These people must be insane. It was true. Those who were wealthier were often more afraid of death. For both mortals and cultivators, an immortal treasure that could extend life by tens of thousands of years was simply irresistible. Beside her, the little witch propped her chin on her hand and yawned lazily. Just watch. The big shots on the third floor are about to get serious. 100 billion is only the beginning. Sure enough, the moment her words fell, another voice from the third floor chimed in. 150 billion. 300 billion. 400 billion. With each new bid, the price of the Rentian fruit climbed by 50 or 60 billion, or even 100 billion, at a time, as those star coins meant nothing to these bidders. By the end, Su Qianqian had become completely numb to the outrageous prices. The VIPs in the third-floor private boxes were far more numerous than she had imagined. More than 10 of them had joined the bidding war for the Rentian fruit. In the end, the fruit was claimed by one of the VIPs for a staggering 900 billion star coins. Next, a new auction item was revealed. This is Jiutian Shirong, a sacred relic of humanity from the ancient wilderness realm. Left behind by Nuwa herself, it is a miraculous material with boundless life force. As the mechanical voice spoke, the screen displayed a handful of golden soil, roughly the size of a fist. It shimmered with a metallic hue, appearing both resilient and dense. The soil seemed to grow and expand with the wind, and in mere moments, it had stretched across thousands of miles. Su Qianqian was stunned. My goodness, even a divine relic left behind by Nuwa has made its way to this auction. These dimensional merchants are something else. As someone who loved farming, Su Qianqian found herself particularly drawn to the Jiutian Shirong. She had heard that even a thumb-sized portion of this soil could expand infinitely, and any plant grown in it would regain vitality, grow endlessly, and never wither. If she could get her hands on it, she'd never have to worry about food again. However, her longing lasted only a brief moment. The base price of 150 billion immediately shattered her dreams. Compared to the Rentian fruit, the Jiutian Shirong seemed less popular, with only 7 or 8 people bidding on it. In the end, the relic was claimed by a VIP on the second floor for 400 billion. Following this, several more mythical treasures appeared in succession: the Shinnom cauldron for refining elixirs, the demon refining pot for forging magical artifacts, the Fushi zither for manipulating hearts. Each item was a legendary relic, and everyone left Su Qianqian in awe. Most of these treasures, priced in the hundreds of billions, were fought over by the VIPs on the third floor. Occasionally, someone on the second floor would join in, but the first-floor hall remained silent throughout. Su Qianqian, despite not being able to afford a single item, felt the experience was well worth it just for the spectacle. Time passed unknowingly. Finally, after Su Qianqian's long wait, the last item of the auction was about to make its grand appearance. This final lot was shrouded in mystery. Its name and description were completely hidden on the system panel. Until the very last moment, no one knew what it would be. Even the little witch sitting beside Su Qianqian straightened up, her drowsiness replaced by curiosity as she prepared to witness the reveal. The electronic screen in the first-floor hall flickered, and under the expectant gazes of everyone present, an image gradually emerged, a celestial peach. The peach was perfectly shaped, its vibrant pink hue making it appear luscious and tempting. This is a flat peach from the divine realm. The mechanical voice responsible for introductions carried a trace of excitement. As everyone knows, during the Queen Mother of Heaven's Flat Peach Banquet, delicacies like dragon liver and phoenix marrow, as well as celestial ambrosia, are commonplace. But the flat peach is the true treasure among all immortals. These flat peaches blossom once every 3,000 years, bear fruit every 3,000 years, and take another 3,000 years to ripen. Consuming just one grants immediate enlightenment, eternal life, and immortality. The entire hall erupted into a frenzy. This was even more incredible than the Renshin fruit. The Renshin fruit could extend a lifespan by 47,000 years, but the flat peach could make someone an immortal god, granting eternal youth and life. Su Qianqian couldn't help but shake her head in amazement. Truly, the merchants from the divine realm were on another level. Even their casual offerings were enough to shock the world. Moments later, the mechanical voice announced the base price. The starting bid for this flat peach is 1 trillion star coins, with a minimum increment of 10 billion star coins per bid. Let the bidding begin. 1 trillion star coins. Su Qianqian shot upright in shock. Goodness, 1 trillion star coins. No wonder this was a treasure from the divine realm. Even gods would find it hard to resist the allure of enlightenment and eternal life. 1 trillion star coins was no small amount. Very few dimensional merchants could afford such a price. Most of the shadowy figures in the first-floor hall could do nothing but watch. Still, while they couldn't bid, it didn't stop the crowd from buzzing with excitement. When the first VIP on the third floor placed a bid of 1.2 trillion, the bidding war for this celestial treasure truly began. 2 trillion, 3 trillion, 5 trillion, 7 trillion. Hearing each bid soar higher and higher, Su Qianqian couldn't help but wipe her brow. The big shots truly lived up to their reputation. They weren't just raising bids. They were leaping ahead by trillions as those star coins were mere pocket change. By the end, the price had climbed to an astronomical 9.99 trillion star coins. At this point, only 2 bidders remained, both from the third-floor VIP boxes. The other VIPs, even those on the second floor, had completely dropped out of the running for this final item. 0.10 trillion. As this bid rang out, the other bidder hesitated briefly before resolutely countering. 20 trillion. 50 trillion. The first bidder immediately shot back. The entire auction hall fell deathly silent. Not a single sound could be heard, as though everyone was holding their breath, afraid to disturb the final showdown between these two titans. After the staggering bid of 50 trillion, the second bidder went quiet for a long time. It seemed they were struggling to make a decision. After a few tense moments, their voice finally rang out, filled with determination. 100 trillion. The crowd erupted once again. Oh my God, 100 trillion. Do you know how much that is? Spending 100 trillion star coins on a single flat peach, doesn't that seem a bit excessive? Why do you care? For us low-level dimensional merchants, 100 trillion is an astronomical number. But for these big shots, it's just the profit from selling a few rare trinkets. Even Su Qianqian was dizzy from hearing such a mind-boggling number. She couldn't help but count on her fingers. 100 trillion. How many zeros was that again? In the end, this flat peach from the divine realm was claimed by the VIP who bid 100 trillion star coins. With that, all the auction items were finally sold. However, the auction wasn't completely over yet. After the grand finale, The remaining time was allocated to the clearance of unsold items. These unsold items, or leftovers, were of little interest to the attendees. After all, if they were worth anything, they wouldn't have gone unsold in the first place. Many attendees began to leave in small groups. Before long, more than half of the shadowy figures in the first-floor hall had disappeared. It was likely that the VIPs on the second and third floors had left long ago. Even the little witch beside Su Qianqian yawned and stood up, preparing to leave. "I'm so tired. I can't stay awake any longer. I'm leaving. The auction is basically over. Those leftover items aren't even worth looking at. Do you want to leave with me?" Su Qianqian shook her head. "I might have to stay a bit longer." "Oh, right, you still have to collect your compensation from the auction." The little witch finally remembered, giving Su Qianqian an envious glance. "Well, you stay then. I guess they'll come find you after the auction is completely over."
Su Qianqian nodded. "See you."
"Bye-bye, see you around." The little witch waved before disappearing outside the private box. Su Qianqian withdrew her gaze and sighed. Truthfully, she also wanted to leave early. She was still worried about Yin Shuo outside. But leaving now would mean giving up the compensation from the auction. And, to be honest, she couldn't bear to do that. Considering how wealthy the auction organizers were, their compensation must be something incredible, right? With that thought, she turned her attention to the electronic screen in the first-floor hall. At this point, the screen was cycling through the unsold items, displaying them one by one for a brief moment. The rapid transitions showed just how little importance the auction placed on these leftovers. There wasn't even a mechanical voice introducing them. Propping her chin on her hand, Su Qianqian watched these items with little interest while waiting for the two shadowy figures to show up. By now, only a few shadowy figures remained in the first-floor hall. They were likely the owners of the unsold items, hoping to reclaim their goods. But the system wouldn't allow that. After some time, even those shadowy figures left, realizing they couldn't bend the rules. Interestingly, Su Qianqian noticed that a few items had disappeared from the electronic screen. Perhaps their owners had decided to pay to retrieve them. Now, only about a dozen items remained unsold on the screen. The first-floor hall was completely empty.
Su Qianqian yawned.
When would this auction finally end? At this point, she was probably the only living person left in the auction house. The screen continued its loop, lowering the price of each item by 10% after every round. If no one bid on an item, its price would keep dropping by another 10%, over and over until someone bought it. Watching these leftover items, Su Qianqian couldn't help but grumble. Everyone else had already left. Who was the auction even showing these items to? Was it showing them to her, the one person who had no choice but to stay until the end? TCH.
It wasn't like she was going to buy anything.
She yawned lazily, ready to stop paying attention, when something caught her eye. A small black stone, no larger than a thumb, appeared on the screen. Its pitch-black surface gleamed like obsidian. This stone had been listed as a special mineral during the main auction, but no one knew what it was for, so no one had bid on it. But now, as Su Qianqian looked at it, she felt a strange sense of familiarity. That glossy black surface, it reminded her of something, though she couldn't quite place it. She racked her brain for a long time, but still couldn't remember. Forget it. If she couldn't recall, it probably wasn't important. Su Qianqian's eyes darted around. Maybe she should bid on it? Just then, there was a knock at the door of her private box. At the same time, a mechanical voice sounded from outside. "Greetings, esteemed VIP. Your compensation is ready. Would you like to accept it now?" Su Qianqian quickly got up and opened the door. Outside stood a shadowy figure holding a tray with 3 exquisitely crafted red boxes. "Esteemed VIP, we have prepared 3 compensation gift boxes for you. Please choose one to take with you." "Only one." Su Qianqian froze for a moment when she heard that. She looked at the 3 red boxes and couldn't help but ask, "What's inside these boxes?" The shadow figure patiently began explaining. The first box contains 1 billion star coins. The second box contains a lifespan fruit that can extend your life by 500 years. And the third box. As the shadow figure spoke, Su Qianqian's eyes widened with each item. When it reached the third box, the shadow figure deliberately paused. What's in the third box? Su Qianqian was already on edge, unable to suppress her curiosity. The third box contains. The shadow figure stretched its words for dramatic effect.
Jiutian Sirang.
What? Su Qianqian almost lost her balance. Didn't the Jiutian Shirong already get sold? How is there more of it? The Jiutian Shirong left behind by Nuwa isn't limited to what was auctioned off earlier. However, the shadow figure explained further, the Jiutian Shirong in this compensation box is only the size of a thumb. After finishing its explanation, the shadow figure asked again, in its mechanical tone, "So, have you decided which box to choose?" Wait, let me think about it. Su Qianqian swallowed nervously and once again glanced at the three boxes. One contained 1 billion star coins, one contained a lifespan fruit to extend her life by 500 years, and the last contained a small amount of Jiutian Shirong, a treasure she had coveted earlier. Even though it was just a tiny bit, the Jiutian Shirong had the divine power to expand infinitely. A thumb-sized piece could cover thousands of miles. Honestly, she wanted them all, but she could only choose one. Which one should she pick? Su Qianqian was torn, weighing her options carefully. Star coins could always be earned later. As for the lifespan fruit, ever since she had injected herself with the genetic modification serum, her lifespan had already reached 1,000 years. She wasn't in urgent need of more years. That left only one viable choice, the Jiutian Shirong. "I'll take the third box," Su Qianqian said decisively. "Are you sure?" The shadow figure confirmed.
Su Qianqian nodded firmly.
"I'm sure." The third box. As soon as she spoke, the first two boxes on the tray disappeared instantly, leaving only the third one. The third box seemed to come alive, lifting itself from the tray and gently flying into Su Qianqian's hands. "Very well. I wish you an enjoyable life. Goodbye," the shadow figure said, bowing slightly before vanishing from the doorway. Su Qianqian stood there holding the heavy red box, stunned and still processing what had just happened. Although the little witch had mentioned earlier that the auction's compensation would be generous, she hadn't expected it to be this generous. Oh my, if eating bad food at every auction resulted in compensation like this, wouldn't she become rich overnight? The auction wasn't even over yet, and Su Qianqian was already looking forward to the next one. Haha, she'd have to find time to ask the little witch when the next auction was scheduled. Hugging the red box to her chest, Su Qianqian giggled happily before taking a deep breath and opening it. Inside, at the center of the large box, lay a thumb-sized clump of black soil. So small. Su Qianqian couldn't help but reach out and poke it lightly. The tiny clump of soil, though small, felt incredibly resilient. Its texture was soft yet dense, and as her fingertip touched it, she could feel a powerful vitality radiating from it. A deep, ancient energy seemed to surge from the soil, carrying with it a profound and weighty aura. So this was the legendary sacred relic left behind by Nuwa. Amazed, Su Qianqian quickly closed the box. She didn't dare to take the Jiutian Shirong out casually. This was a divine relic. What if something went wrong? It was safest to keep it sealed in the box. With that, Su Qianqian placed the box directly into her system's built-in storage space. She didn't even trust her storage ring to hold it, afraid something might happen. Now that she had received her compensation gift, Su Qianqian was ready to leave the auction. Of course, before leaving, she didn't forget to bid on the small black stone she had noticed earlier. Carrying the rewards from this auction, Su Qianqian left the private box in high spirits. However, just as she reached the corner of the staircase on the first floor, she noticed a tall, shadowy figure standing there. The figure, unmoving like a wall, blocked most of the exit.
Su Qianqian froze in surprise.
The auction had ended long ago. How is there still someone else here besides her? Could this shadow be one of the auction staff? Suppressing her doubts, Su Qianqian cautiously approached, intending to slip past the figure through the narrow gap near the exit. But before she could get closer, The shadow suddenly turned, stepping directly into her path. "You've finally come out," a deep and familiar male voice said. "I've been waiting for you, little girl from the beast world." You've been waiting for me?" Su Qianqian, startled by the sudden movement, was even more shocked when the man revealed her identity.
How do you know who I am?
Wasn't the auction system supposed to protect the anonymity of every participant? All attendees were shrouded in shadow, their features unrecognizable. So how had this man figured out who she was? Humph. For a cultivator, such a thing is child's play, the man said with a low laugh, his tone light but laced with an inexplicable meaning. "You've bought something for me before. That transaction formed a karmic bond between us. Using this connection, I divined your location and the time you would appear. It wasn't difficult."
So,
What do you want with me?" Su Qianqian asked cautiously. Cultivators were terrifying. They could even use divination to track someone. She absolutely couldn't afford to offend him. What a shame. The man's faint smile faded, replaced by a cold, oppressive tone. "I missed out on the Millennium Spirit Ginseng King that should have been mine. Tell me, what should I do? A treasure that I was certain to obtain was stolen by someone else. So that's why he's waiting here. To confront me about the Spirit Ginseng King?" Su Qianqian gulped nervously, her voice trembling as she replied, That can't be helped. But if I happen to find another Millennium Spirit Ginseng King in the future, I'll definitely prioritize selling it to you. Like hell I will. Never again." She swore to herself she'd never trade with merchants from the cultivation world again. Who could handle this kind of harassment after a bad transaction? "Is that so?" The man slowly advanced, cornering Su Qianqian against the wall at the stairwell. "But you don't seem very sincere."
How could that be?
Su Qianqian stammered, her voice trembling. His sudden approach brought with it a suffocating pressure, a powerful aura that seemed to bypass the barriers of countless dimensions and pierce straight into her soul. Instinctively, Su Qianqian took 2 steps back, only to hit the wall behind her. There was nowhere left to retreat. Forcing herself to suppress the fear and trembling in her body, she spoke softly. "Dimensional trade is all about fairness and justice. As long as you're willing to pay the price, I'll never refuse a transaction with you."
Ha!
The man let out a cold laugh, then leaned in closer. His low voice, almost brushing against her ear, sent chills down her spine. "Let's hope you keep your word," he said, his tone deep and deliberate. "I can't stand liars." I will. Su Qianqian said hastily, struggling to maintain her composure. Inside, her heart was pounding wildly, her fingers clenching tightly. Though the man's face was obscured by shadow, at such close range, she could almost feel his faint breaths. She had no doubt that if he wanted to, he could kill her in an instant, just a single breath, and her life would be over. But then she remembered the auction's promise. All dimensional merchants were protected by the system while attending. Surely, she wouldn't actually be harmed, right? As if to confirm her thoughts, the man suddenly stepped back. But just as he withdrew, Su Qianqian felt a faint, icy sensation brush across her forehead, like the whisper of an unseen force. Before she could make sense of it, the man spoke again, his voice now lazy and amused. "Very well then. Until we meet again." He deliberately emphasized the words "meet again." Before Su Qianqian could react, the shadowy figure vanished into thin air.
What? What did he mean by that?
Were they destined to meet again in the future? Su Qianqian clutched her head in despair. No, where on earth was she supposed to find a second Millennium Spirit Ginseng King? As the swirling auction gate slowly closed behind her, Su Qianqian still hadn't fully recovered from the shock of the earlier confrontation. Standing outside the western city gate under the blazing sun, she felt an inexplicable chill running down her spine, her back drenched in a cold sweat. It took her a while to snap out of it. Raising her head, she gazed at the obelisk inside the western city, its golden surface gleaming in the sunlight, so dazzling it hurt her eyes. After a long exhale, she shook her head and muttered to herself, "Fine. Whatever happens, happens." I'm not going to dwell on it. Surely, that cultivator from the cultivation world wouldn't be able to breach the barriers between countless dimensions and come after her, right? After all, she reassured herself, I'm a VIP merchant protected by the dimensional system. After some self-soothing, Su Qianqian decisively pulled out her phone to check the time. The moment she saw the display, her jaw dropped. 10 days had passed since she entered the auction. What the heck? The time difference between the auction and her world was this big? After her initial shock subsided, Su Qianqian instinctively touched her stomach. She still didn't feel hungry. Was the effect of the 10,000-year ice spirit fruit really this good? No, wait, this wasn't the point right now. Finding Inshuo was snapping back to reality. Su Qianqian quickly scanned the area. There was no sign of Inshuo near the western city gate. Of course, she had been gone for 10 days. No matter how stubborn Inshuo was, he couldn't have stayed there waiting for her that long. She pulled out her invisibility cloak, swapped it for her disguise cloak, and took on Su Mu's face before approaching the 2 orc guards at the city gate. Excuse me, have you seen a male orc wearing a strange hat around here in the past few days? Inshuo's bamboo hat was quite distinctive. It should have been memorable. However, the 2 guards shook their heads in unison. Haven't seen him. I see.
Shuqianqian frowned.
Given Inshuo's personality, where would he go if he didn't wait for her outside the city? Noticing her troubled expression, one of the guards pointed toward a direction inside the city. We gate guards rotate every 3 days. You could try asking the ones who were on duty a few days ago. They might have seen him. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Su Qianqian smiled gratefully before heading into the city. Following the direction the guard had pointed, Su Qianqian hadn't walked far before the oppressive heat made her start sweating profusely. The entire western city felt like a giant steam cooker, the air so hot it seemed to scorch her throat with every breath. She glanced up at the sky. The sky was a bright, cloudless blue. The sun's blazing rays poured down like flames, roasting the earth and forcing her to squint. Even with her ice-based abilities, Su Qianqian felt unbearably hot. She couldn't imagine how the ordinary orcs were enduring this sweltering season. Looking around, she saw very few pedestrians. On such a scorching day, almost no orcs ventured onto the streets. The few who were out hurried along, drenched in sweat and visibly exhausted by the relentless sun. Just as she turned a corner, someone barreled into her. A lynx beast man stumbled back after colliding with her, immediately dropping to his knees. I am so sorry. It's my fault. All right, no need to kneel every time something happens. Su Qianqian pulled the lynx to his feet. Why were you running like that? What's going on? The lynx finally got a good look at her face. Whatever composure he had managed to maintain vanished instantly. Clutching Su Qianqian's hand, he burst into tears. It's Xiaojiu.
She's dying.
Whoa. Wait, stop crying. Tell me what happened first. It's Xiaojiu. The lynx sobbed uncontrollably. She's sick. Her whole body is burning up. Su Qianqian pinched the bridge of her nose in frustration. Stop crying. Take me to her. Under the lynx's guidance, Su Qianqian found herself back in the slave quarters. Compared to her previous visit, the place looked drastically different. Almost no orcs were in sight, and those who used to work under the pine bark shelters were nowhere to be found. The lynx led her to Xiaojiu's dwelling. The leaves and bark used to shield the space from the elements had dried out under the relentless sun, turning brittle and yellow. She could only imagine how suffocating it must have been inside. Bending down, Su Qianqian picked up the little girl and touched her forehead. It was scorching. The child's face was pale, her breathing rapid, and her consciousness unclear. It was obviously heatstroke. Su Qianqian hurriedly carried her to the shade of a nearby tree. She took out a water pouch, added a pinch of sea crystal salt, and gently fed the saline water to Xiaojiu. People with heatstroke often sweat heavily. Drinking saline water helps replenish lost fluids and electrolytes. That pine bark shelter is too stuffy, and the air doesn't circulate. Staying in there too long is bound to cause heatstroke, Su Qianqian explained while laying down a piece of beast hide from her storage ring. She carefully placed Xiaojiu on it before turning to the lynx. Stay in the shade during the day. It's cooler here. Keep this water pouch and give her more water later. She's lost a lot of fluids. The lynx didn't understand her words, but nodded repeatedly. Su Qianqian extended her right hand. With a thought, her ice ability condensed into her palm. In mere moments, a fist-sized block of ice materialized, exuding a refreshing chill. Ignoring the lynx's astonished gaze, she placed the ice block in Xiaojiu's arms. Xiaojiu's heatstroke was severe. Without immediate cooling, the accumulated heat could damage her organs and threaten her life. Using ice to lower her body temperature was the quickest and most effective solution.
You're
a dual-element ability user. The lynx stared at the ice block, his disbelief evident. What? Never seen one. Su Qianqian smirked, conjured another block of ice, and tossed it to him. Here, hold on to this so you don't pass out too. The lynx fumbled to catch it. The instant the cold seeped through his body, the suffocating heat that had been pressing down on him vanished. It was as if he'd been transported from a scorching summer day to a cool winter wonderland. Wiping the sweat from his brow, the lynx stammered, enough, no need to thank me, Su Qianqian interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. Let me ask you something. Have you seen a male orc wearing a strange hat in the past few days? The lynx paused, then quickly nodded. Are you talking about the slave who's always with you? I haven't seen him recently. Do you need me to help look for him? For a moment, even the way he addressed her changed. In Beast City, abilities weren't particularly rare. Most city guards had them. But dual-element ability users were a different story. They were one-in-a-million prodigies who might only appear once every few centuries. Such a person commanded respect wherever they went. No, stay here and take care of Xiaojiu, Su Qianqian sighed. I'll look for him myself. If Yin Shuo was sulking and hiding because she didn't return on time, no one else would be able to find him. Just as Su Qianqian was about to leave, dozens of slave orcs suddenly appeared and surrounded her. The lynx instinctively shielded Xiaojiu, his voice trembling.
What?
What do you all want? To his surprise, the slave orcs fell to their knees, bowing to Su Qianqian. Please save us. Give us some water or ice blocks. We're willing to trade all our beast hides for them. They desperately offered everything they had. Beast hides they had worked hard to earn, hand-woven sinew, and even hand-carved bone tools. These orcs were pitifully dressed, their upper bodies sunburned and cracked, caked in dust and sweat. Their lower halves were barely covered with tattered grass skirts, falling apart under the sun's relentless assault. Their faces, worn with despair, now brimmed with hope as they looked at Su Qianqian. Their cracked, parched lips trembled as they pleaded. Su Qianqian felt a pang of sympathy as she looked at them. She used both hands, and several cubes of ice condensed in her palms, emanating wisps of cold air. Under the scorching sun, it was cool just to look at. Su Qianqian distributed the ice cubes one by one, and all the orcs present kowtowed in gratitude. They held the ice cubes in their arms as if they were treasures. Some even put them on their faces or held them in their mouths. When the ice cubes melted, they turned into water, which not only relieved the heat but also quenched thirst. The ice cubes formed by supernatural powers are harder to melt than ordinary ice cubes, which is just right for the scorching sun in this beast world. Su Qianqian turned her head and looked at the corner. There were two orc boys who were slightly bigger than bobcats. They were looking at her eagerly, but didn't dare to come over. They were extremely thin, and their skin was tanned. They didn't dare to come over because they didn't have any supplies to exchange for ice. Su Qianqian waved at the two of them. Come here. The two children looked at her timidly and moved towards her slowly. Su Qianqian directly stuffed an ice cube into each of the two children's hands and said, Hold it well and stay under the shade of the tree. Don't always stay in the hot sun. The two children's eyes were red, and they didn't care about the ice in their arms. They knelt down in front of Su Qianqian. We have nothing to give you. We are slaves. The only thing we have is this slave status. We are willing to be your slaves and serve you for life. Su Qianqian was stunned for a moment, then smiled helplessly and said, No, I don't need slaves.
You can take the ice.
I won't charge any compensation. As she spoke, she pushed back the animal skins and tendons that the slave orcs had taken out. I don't need your things either. Take them back. These slaves have been miserable enough, having worked hard for more than half a month to earn just this little bit of supplies. She doesn't need these things, so there's no need for her to take away the supplies they rely on for survival. Unexpectedly, when these slave orcs heard her words, they knelt down again, their expressions extremely solemn. If you don't accept our things, we have no way to repay your kindness. We are willing to be your slaves and serve you for the rest of our lives. No, you guys. Su Qianqian was confused by this situation. I already said I don't need slaves. Having received more than 20 years of education in the modern world that everyone is equal, she really could not accept that she was trampling on the dignity of others and treating living people as slaves and driving them at will. The mountain cat next to her saw Su Qianqian's embarrassment and sighed softly. In fact, they are all abandoned and have no owner. It is actually too much for you to accept them and let them serve you for the rest of their lives. Slaves were captives captured after a defeat in war. They had no human rights and were often treated like animals. Those young and strong slaves and females with reproductive ability will be left in the beast tribe, while these old, weak, and disabled slaves will be abandoned. Without masters to belong to, they will live in this remote corner where no one cares, leaving them to fend for themselves. As Su Qianqian listened, her mind couldn't help but start to become active. She actually had an idea. She had always wanted to find a piece of fertile land to grow the specialty crops of the beast world, and then sell them to the plain mall. Although these slaves are older or just children, they are all hardworking and simple-minded. If you accept them, let them farm for you, provide them with food, clothing, and shelter, and ensure their safety.
It is not a bad idea.
Then you guys live well, and when I need you, you come with me, how about that?
Su Qianqian said.
Hearing this, the slaves nodded one after another. Even if you ask us to accompany you to see the beast god, we are willing. It's decided then. I'll come to see you once I finish what I'm doing. Su Qianqian made the final decision. Before that, she would try her best to find a fertile land outside the city, take all these unwanted slaves away, form her own tribe, and then become the tribe leader herself. She had previously bought a lot of crop seeds from the merchant from the modern dimension. She would teach these slaves how to plant crops such as grain, cotton, and various cash crops. After their lives were secured, she would teach them how to make hunting tools and weapons to strengthen their tribe and prevent outside tribes from invading them. Having made up her mind, Su Qianqian left some food and water for these slaves. But she didn't dare give them too much. They were slaves after all. Leaving too much food would attract covetousness and cause trouble. She just had to make sure they could survive. However, just as Su Qianqian was about to get up and leave, the slave boy who had not dared to accept her ice cube suddenly spoke up. Well. Were you looking for the orc with the strange hat just now? Su Qianqian paused. Have you seen him? The slave boy nodded. About 9 days ago, I saw that man going to the Lord's cave in the East City. The Lord's cave in East City? Su Qianqian was stunned when she heard that. Isn't that where Rongu lives? Could it be that Inshoa went to seek revenge on Rongu? Then what? Su Qianqian couldn't help asking. Did he come out later? The boy shook his head. After that night, I never saw him again. Su Qianqian's heart sank. Judging from this, Inshoa was most likely in Rongu's hands. Midnight. Based on the information provided by the slave boy, Su Qianqian quietly reached the cave where the Lord of East City lived. But there are patrolling orc warriors all around here, so it's not easy to sneak in and look for Inshoa. Su Qianqian, hiding behind a rock, looked at the orc warriors coming and going. Her eyes rolled, and then she took out a beef ball and threw it hard at the nearest orc warrior. The big guy picked it up and saw that it was a fragrant meatball. He was delighted and stuffed it into his mouth quickly. The orc warrior nearby saw this and asked in confusion, "What are you doing?" The orc shook his head again and again. "Nothing, I'll go over there and take a look." After saying that, he walked in the direction where the meatball was thrown. Su Qianqian hid behind a stone, clenched her fists to gather strength, and when the orc warrior entered the shadow behind the stone, she punched him hard. The orc fainted on the ground instantly. Su Qianqian picked up the spear in his hand, touched the magic cloak on her body, and instantly turned into an orc warrior. She lowered her head and smiled. "You ate my meatballs, so let me occupy your identity first." After saying that, she raised her legs and walked out. The orc warrior next to him saw him coming back and couldn't help but say, "Patrol well and don't run around." Su Qianqian responded in a rough voice. Okay. The magic cloak is really convenient. Not only can it change your appearance and aura, it can even imitate your voice." Su Qianqian looked at the orc warriors around her calmly and quietly came to the vicinity of the cave without anyone noticing. Occasionally there were 1 or 2 patrolling orcs near the cave, so her arrival was not surprising. Guarding outside the cave saw her coming and thought she was changing shifts, so he pointed to his position and said, "You come here and guard. No one is allowed to enter. I'm leaving first." Su Qianqian nodded, holding the spear in her hand, and took over the task handed over by the other party with a serious face. As soon as the orcs left, she turned and entered the cave. Unexpectedly, the structure of this cave was very similar to the cave where Inshua imprisoned her. After entering, there was a long passage, and only after walking for a distance could you reach the real cave. This is probably designed specifically to protect the safety of the city lord. The long passage can slow down the attacking enemies and allow the orcs inside to escape through another passage. Su Qianqian walked lightly and approached the interior of the cave little by little, without disturbing anyone. The further you go inside, the more tortuous the passage becomes. Through the winding passage, several quarreling voices were heard. "That guy will wake up in more than a month. Have you figured out a plan? Why rush? He has been in seclusion for so many years, it is impossible for him to suddenly appear. The high priest has predicted that he was already a 7th-level orc when he was in seclusion. If he comes out this time, his strength will definitely exceed that of the great witches of the major families. By then, no orc in the entire Wanshou city will be his opponent. It will be too late for us to deal with him now."
Who are they talking about?
Su Qianqian, with a hint of doubt, quietly approached to take a look. Inside the dim cave, middle-aged male orcs were pacing back and forth anxiously. They were the 4 small city lords from the east, west, south, and north, and they had gathered together tonight for some unknown reason. The high priest's prediction may not be credible, and he may not wake up in a month. Shiju, the lord of West City, said hesitantly. Besides, since the establishment of Wanshou City, nothing major has happened. Before he went into seclusion, he managed Wanshou City in an orderly manner. Under the intimidation of his strength, the wandering orcs from the outside world dare not set foot in Wanshou City. Why should we? Upon hearing this, Dongnua, the lord of East City, sneered. "Shijua, have you forgotten how many beast men he slaughtered before he became the lord of the city? That's right, a cold-blooded snake orc like him is not worthy of being the city lord." Beatty, the city lord of North City, added. "Besides, he was born a slave, so how can he occupy the city lord position? If he wasn't so powerful, who would submit to him?" Shijua was silent. Nanzhao, the mayor of South City, glanced at him and said, "I heard from the high priest that he had been in seclusion for so many years because his supernatural powers were unstable." "Do you know why his supernatural powers were unstable?" As a member of the Wu Snake clan, he practiced the magic of sucking the blood of beasts in order to improve his supernatural powers. This magic is extremely unstable. If you are not careful, you'll turn into a beast and can never change back to human form. You will become a monster that only knows how to kill. Shiju sighed upon hearing this. "Forget it, you can do whatever you want. My Silver Eagle clan will not interfere, but we will not join either." The Lord of East City sneered upon hearing this. "Shiju, with your attitude, you will eventually be squeezed out of the position of Lord of West City. Look at how you have accomplished nothing in all these years, and you don't even have a descendant who can inherit the position of Lord of West City. What happened to the Silver Eagle family earlier had already spread among the four city lords. Although they were surprised that the Great Witch of the Silver Eagle family actually killed the future heir for a mere clan rule, they were more disdainful and ridiculed. Wanshou City seem on the surface. They are constantly competing and fighting for resources in secret. The Silver Eagle family killed the heir with outstanding talent, and these old guys are actually very happy behind the scenes. After all, without a powerful competitor like Inshua, their descendants and heirs will be able to obtain more rights and resources. Shijue was speechless, but he remained silent. After all, they were not wrong. He really had accomplished nothing and couldn't even protect the successor he had chosen. After mocking Shiju, the Lord of East City turned to the other two lords and said, "That cold-blooded orc is bloodthirsty and brutal. I have a way to deal with him." The two city lords came over together and asked, "What's the solution?" Su Qianqian was about to move closer to eavesdrop when a familiar voice suddenly shouted from behind her. "Who are you, and why are you eavesdropping here?" Su Qianqian was startled, and when she turned around, she saw Ronggu standing behind her, pointing at her with a look of horror on his face. "I was eavesdropping so intently that I neglected the people behind me." Su Qianqian bit her lip in annoyance. The next second, she found that the four city lords who were eavesdropping had surrounded her and stared at her fiercely. "He knows our plan. We must not let him leave alive." The four city lords attacked together, and Su Qianqian was shocked. These old guys were all level 5 orcs. She quickly dodged several attacks and threw out a few thorn vine seeds. The thorn seeds grew bigger in the wind and instantly turned into countless huge and thick vines in the air. Even the thorns on them became as sharp as steel, blocking the four city lords. Su Qianqian was shocked when she saw this scene. What was going on? When did her wood ability become so powerful? Without time to think, Su Qianqian turned around and pulled out the dagger that could cut through iron like mud and put it against Ronggu's neck. "Tell me quickly, where did you take Inshua?" Ronggu looked at the sharp blade flashing with cold light, so close to him, and his whole body trembled like a sieve. "He was taken away. I don't know where he went." "Who took him away?" Ronggu replied tremblingly. "The orcs from the Grey Wolf tribe." Grey Wolf tribe? Su Qianqian was stunned and suddenly remembered Lang Yan and He Mu whom she had seen before the auction. Could it be that they took Inshua away? Where did they take Inshua? "Tell me quickly, if you don't want to die."
Su Qianqian threatened viciously.
Ronggu looked like he was about to cry. I don't know either. Useless guy." Su Qianqian was so angry that she gritted her teeth and knocked Ronggu unconscious with one punch. Before the four city lords broke through the encirclement of thorny vines, she quickly put on an invisibility cloak and left the cave. There were still many orc warriors patrolling outside. Su Qianqian took advantage of the invisible state and left the place unhindered. When we got outside, the sky was gradually turning dark. A night had passed like this, and many orcs began to appear on the streets. Dawn, it was slightly cooler than during the day, and the beast men in Wanshou City took advantage of this time to come out and find work to make a living, setting up stalls to sell things. Su Qianqian took a quick look and found that there were stalls selling water. When she walked closer, she realized that it was not water, but collected birch sap. The arrival of the hot season caused many rivers to dry up. The orcs, who had no water to drink, looked for birch trees in the forest outside the city, then cut a small hole with a bone blade to let the juice flow out naturally and be collected. But the daily output of each birch tree is limited, and the orcs can only collect a little bit even if they work tirelessly by the birch trees day and night. The birch sap is expensive due to its small quantity. Poor orcs simply cannot afford it, and it is eventually bought by wealthy and powerful families. Su Qianqian watched and gradually felt a little disappointed. These four city lords were in high positions, but they never looked down to see how hard the orcs living at the bottom had. Instead of engaging in these conspiracies and tricks to frame others, it would be better to think of ways to help the orcs in Wanshou City survive this hot season. She walked to a secluded corner, took off her invisibility cloak, then changed back into Su Mu and walked onto the street. Su Qianqian did not stay for too long, but went straight back to the slave area where the mountain cats lived. When they got there, they saw several orcs occupying the cool place under the shade of the tree. Bobcat and several slave boys were pushed to the ground, and the ice they had been protecting in their arms was also taken away. The ice cube had only melted halfway, and it was still cool in the hand, very comfortable. But the orcs were still dissatisfied and kicked the mountain cat and other slaves, saying arrogantly, "Tell me how much ice you have hidden, and hand it over. You damn bastards." The mountain cat got up and bit the orc's foot with all its might, biting it so hard that blood came out of the foot. The orc screamed and kicked the skinny mountain cat away. "Damn it, a mere slave dared to bite me." He swung his fist and was about to hit the mountain cat. Suddenly, a sharp ice cone flew towards him and pierced through his palm with a puff. Blood spurted out. Su Qianqian's voice rang out. "Those ice cubes are mine. Come to me if you want them." Several orcs looked up and saw Su Qianqian walking towards them with a gloomy face. Another ice cone gradually condensed in the palm of her slightly raised right hand. The ice cone flashed a cold light under the scorching sun, which was frightening. You are not the one from before." Several orcs recognized Su Qianqian at a glance as the man who had been selling sea crystal sand on the street before, and they were instantly frightened. This guy turned out to be a powerful person with dual abilities. After realizing this, the orcs no longer had the arrogance they had just now, and retreated in fear. Su Qianqian smiled coldly. "What are you afraid of? You just want ice cubes, right? I'll stick as many as you want into your bodies."
How about that?
"No, no more." Several orcs turned pale with fear in an instant, and they knelt down and kowtowed to Su Qianqian. "We don't dare to do it again. Please be magnanimous and spare us." Su Qianqian glanced at the mountain cat and other slaves who were pushed to the ground, and said word by word, "If you want to live, you must remember that these slaves are under my control. If any of you dare to bully them, you are against me. Remember, remember." Several orcs nodded repeatedly. "Remember it. Why don't you get out of here?" Several orcs hurriedly stood up and prepared to leave. "Wait." Su Qianqian suddenly called them again and said in a deep voice, "You stole their ice cubes. Do you want to make some compensation?" The orcs paused, as if they were really afraid of the ice cone in Su Qianqian's hand. They didn't even dare to say a word of rebuttal. They immediately took out all the food and animal skins from their bags and stuffed them into the mountain cat and the slave boys, saying sorry repeatedly. Seeing that these orcs had a good attitude in admitting their mistakes, Su Qianqian said, "If you want ice, you can bring food and animal skins here to exchange, but you are not allowed to rob or bully the slaves here." Several orcs immediately nodded obediently and said, Okay, we will never bully them again."
But
"Can you really sell us your ice cubes?" Under the timid yet hopeful gazes of the orcs, Su Qianqian nodded seriously. "Of course, as long as you pay the corresponding compensation, you can have as much ice as you want. She possesses ice-related special powers and can have as much ice as she wants." The orcs heard this. They were delighted and bowed to Su Qianqian with gratitude before leaving. They wanted to go back quickly and tell everyone the good news. As soon as they left, Shanmao got up and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and asked in confusion, "Those guys are orcs from big families. They don't lack water at all. Why did you sell ice to them?" "Silly boy, if you don't sell to those powerful guys, where will you low-level orcs get food to eat?" Su Qianqian touched his head. Besides, she was still expecting these slaves to farm for her in the future, so she couldn't let them starve to death. Although there was plenty of food in her storage ring, it was not good to take it out so suddenly. "So that's how it is." Bobcat nodded thoughtfully. Su Qianqian saw his silly look and threw the ice cone she had just condensed to him. "Take it for self-defense. If anyone dares to bully you again, use this thing to stab him." Then, she waved to the slaves next to her. "Come here. From now on you will be responsible for selling ice cubes for me." She explained her plan in detail, while condensing countless fist-sized ice cubes. "In the future, I will sell these ice cubes to the orcs of the big families to earn their food and animal skins. As for the price, 5 animal skins can be exchanged for 1 piece of ice, and 1 first-level animal crystal can be exchanged for 20 pieces of ice. You don't have to be afraid of those guys." If they dare to take things away, just smash the ice cubes instead of giving them to them. You don't have to feel sorry for the ice cubes. These things are of unlimited value to me. If they don't get any benefits from smashing things, they will behave themselves and be obedient. The orcs listened very carefully and kept every word of Su Qianqian in mind. After a while, the orcs who had left came rushing over with a group of orcs. Mountain Cat and several slave orcs had already spread a large piece of animal skin under the shade of the tree and piled it with ice cubes as high as a hill. The orcs saw the full container of ice. Their eyes lit up and they all gathered around. Seeing this, the orc slaves who were used to being bullied were still a little scared, but they gathered their courage and shouted, "No snatching, line up and come one by one." Let's not talk about this for now. How much are you selling these ice cubes for? The group of orcs who swarmed in didn't care about anything else and asked about the price as soon as they arrived. 5 animal skins can be exchanged for a piece of ice, and 1 first-level animal crystal can be exchanged for 20 pieces of ice. Lynx repeated what Su Qianqian had said before. So cheap? Several orcs looked at each other in disbelief, and then lined up. Of the big family have no shortage of food and water, but they also cannot stand the high temperatures in the hot season. Ice is everywhere on the ground in the cold season, but in the hot season it is even more precious than animal crystals. Before coming, they had actually prepared to buy a block of ice for 1 beast crystal, but they didn't expect that the price of ice would be so much cheaper than they imagined. The price is almost like picking it up for free. Why bother to spend so much effort and time to grab it? And you may not even get it. Seeing that these orcs were so obedient and did not cause trouble, several slave orcs secretly breathed a sigh of relief and began selling ice. At this moment, Su Qianqian was hiding behind a tree and secretly watching the scene. She deliberately did not show up, just to see if these slaves could be able to stand on their own without her presence. It now seems that the performance of these slave orcs is better than expected. Although the orcs who came to buy ice cubes looked anxious, they lined up obediently and did not rob ice cubes. Obviously, Su Qianqian's previous deterrent power also played a certain role. The beast men who bought the ice cubes didn't care about anything else. They eagerly held the ice cubes tightly in their arms, held them in their mouths, and pressed them against their sunburned skin. The way he squinted his eyes and enjoyed the coolness was like a person in the desert suddenly entering an oasis, and all the heat in his body disappeared. They were very satisfied with the ice cubes they bought. Not only were they cheap, but they were also harder than ordinary ice cubes and could keep the temperature down longer. After all, it was condensed by Su Qianqian using her ice-based abilities, so even under the scorching sun, it could remain unmelted for a day and a night. Came to buy ice. Bobcat and several slave boys were maintaining order on the side. Even the weak Xiaojiu was helping. The little guy squatted in the corner, folding the collected animal skins neatly together, his little face red with excitement. Time gradually came to the afternoon, and the gradually scorching sun still could not stop everyone's excitement. Seeing that the hides were almost sold out, Su Qianqian walked out from behind the big tree and bought another pile of ice cubes from the animal hide stall. The orcs in line saw the ice she had condensed with her own hands. Their eyes were filled with unstoppable envy and, more importantly, awe. In the beast world, only male orcs with outstanding talents will awaken superpowers, but most of them are physical enhancements, such as increased strength and increased speed. The city guards in the City of Beasts are basically of this type, and there are very few who possess the superpowers of the 5 elements. There are almost no people in the entire beast world who have the ability to condense ice out of thin air like Su Qianqian. As more and more orcs came to buy ice, the amount of ice Su Qianqian needed to condense also gradually increased. After condensing hundreds of blocks of ice, Su Qianqian was surprised to find that she was not tired at all, and her supernatural powers did not seem to have been exhausted. She could even condense thousands of blocks of ice in one breath. Earlier, she had discovered that her abilities seemed to have increased significantly after attending the auction. After Su Qianqian condensed hundreds of pieces of ice, she took out the measuring instrument and tested it during her free time. When she saw that her ability level had increased to level 5, Her eyes widened in disbelief. When did it happen? How come she doesn't know? Could it be because he ate the 10,000-year-old ice spirit fruit at the auction? Su Qianqian thought about it, and this was the only reason. The system had previously detected that the 10,000-year ice spirit fruit contained extremely pure spiritual power of heaven and earth. Su Qianqian had already experienced firsthand the enormous energy contained in this thing. While these orcs were buying ice, Su Qianqian also took the opportunity to ask about the whereabouts of the orcs from the Grey Wolf tribe. You mean the orcs from the Grey Wolf tribe? The answer came from a young female who held a piece of ice in each hand. She squinted her eyes in enjoyment while trying to recall. I saw them a few days ago. They appeared in East City. There were 2 of them. One of them was tall, handsome, and had a strong body, Su Qianqian. What about the other one? The other one was shorter and not as good-looking as the one next to him. He was carrying an orc on his shoulder. I couldn't see what the orc looked like because they were walking too fast. Su Qianqian. No, then why do you remember that tall orc with handsome face and strong body? Oh, right. The female seemed to remember something and quickly added, I remember that the orc they were carrying was covered in blood. It was scary, so I didn't dare to take a closer look. Covered in blood? Hearing this, Su Qianqian's face turned pale. That should be In Shua. But why was there so much blood? Could it be that the guy was besieged and beaten when he went to seek revenge on Rongu? Thinking of this, Su Qianqian quickly opened the plane system. She remembered that the pet system had a function that the owner could remotely check the life status of anyone or anything that entered the storage space as a pet regardless of the distance. System. Is Pet In Shua still alive? Su Qianqian. Oh boy, I worried for nothing. The system's detection function will definitely not be wrong. This guy In Shua is still alive and well. Su Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief, but couldn't help but ask in a low voice, then can the system locate In Shua's current location? Ding. Sorry, the loyalty of Pet In Shua has not reached 95, so this function cannot be used. Shuqianqian.
Okay.
At least I know he is okay. I can look for him later. The next day, Su Qianqian left enough ice for Shan Mao and the others and left Wanshou City. After learning from the female that the orcs of the Grey Wolf tribe had left the city and went to the forest in the east, Su Qianqian also wanted to go out and try her luck. Anyway, she now looks like the male orc Sumu, so even if she meets the orcs from the Grey Wolf tribe, she will not be recognized. In addition, she also wanted to go outside the city to look for places suitable for farming and settlement. If there were, she could take the slaves there as soon as possible and leave the city of beasts as soon as possible. Those city lords are so inhumane and are all trouble. Sooner or later they will make the city of beasts a mess. If they stay in the city, something bad will happen sooner or later. Wanshou City. It is the only forest within 100 miles and the largest forest in the entire central continent. It is much larger and more dangerous than the Misty Forest. Of course, this huge danger is often accompanied by opportunities and benefits. This forest is called the Forest of 10,000 Beasts. It is named this way not only because it is the closest to the city of 10,000 beasts, but also because there are countless wild beasts and ferocious beasts lurking in this forest. Ferocious beasts are not ordinary wild beasts. They contain animal crystals in their heads and are often hunted by mercenary warriors. Naturally, this forest of beasts is also where most orcs come and go to perform missions. Just now, Su Qianqian met Shi Yuan and his companions not long after she entered the forest. Hey, Sumu. Shi Yuan waved at her frantically from a distance. Why are you here? Su Qianqian walked towards them. Oh, stop talking. Shi Yuan sighed. Sumu, we are in big trouble. What happened? Su Qianqian subconsciously looked behind Shi Yuan, only to see the captain Shi Fong slumped on the ground, with Nan Wu taking care of him. Shi Fong, are you hurt? Shi Fong, who was always calm and composed, showed a helpless expression on his face at this moment and said, We accepted a bounty mission yesterday. There is a man-eating beast that has been entrenched in the eastern area of the Forest of 10,000 Beasts for many years. As long as we kill it and bring back the spoils, We can go to the city lord to claim the reward. But unfortunately, I was attacked by the man-eating beast's poisonous stinger. Now my right leg is paralyzed and I can't walk. We have to take Shifeng back to Wanshou City to find a witch doctor. Nan sighed. I hope we can find a witch doctor. Su Qianqian couldn't help wondering. Why? Is it difficult to find a witch doctor in Wanshou City? Alas, Su Mu, you don't know that the witch doctors in Wanshou City are controlled by the 4 city lords. It is difficult to see them, and if you want to see a doctor, you must first pay 2 first-level beast crystals. Su Qianqian couldn't help but smack her lips. So expensive. In Wanshou City, but it is too expensive to also need 2 beast crystals to see a doctor. In this case, those poor orcs will not dare to go to the witch doctor when they are sick in the future and can only endure it. We can't help it. Witch doctors who can treat illnesses are rare, and they are all controlled by the 4 city lords. Shi Yuan, who is always carefree, shook his head in distress. The reward for this bounty mission we took on this time is only 4 first-level beast crystals. If we find a witch doctor to treat the illness, we will have to spend half of it. Seeing that the 3 of them looked unhappy, Su Qianqian couldn't help but step forward and said, Shifeng, let me help you. My mother used to be a witch doctor in the tribe, and I also know a little bit about medicine. Really? Shi Yuan's eyes lit up, and he quickly helped lift up Shifeng's leather pants. It's right here. His calf was pierced by the stinger of the man-eating beast, and now it's swollen. Under his trouser legs, Shifeng's calves were already bruised. Su Qianqian bent down, gently touched the swollen area, and asked, Does it hurt? Shifeng gritted his teeth and shook his head. It doesn't hurt. But his pale face was covered in sweat, and he was obviously trying his best to endure it so as not to worry his teammates. Su Qianqian observed it for a while and asked doubtfully, This looks like a plant toxin? How can man-eating animals have plant toxins? However, as soon as she said this, Shi Yuan and Nan Wu's eyes lit up and they nodded repeatedly, saying, Yes, that man-eating beast has a big flower bud on its head, and its roots are full of poisonous thorns.
Man-eating beast. Bull.
Could it be that the man-eating beast they're talking about is actually the carnivorous plant? Su Qianqian had some guesses in her mind, and then said to Shifeng, Shifeng, I can cure your poison. It may be a little painful, so you have to bear it. Shifeng nodded. It's okay, I'm not afraid, go ahead. Su Qianqian took out the dagger that could cut through iron like mud, first poured alcohol on the blade, then pointed the blade at Shifeng's swollen calf, and gently cut a hole to let all the poisonous pus and blood inside flow out. After the redness and swelling had completely subsided, Su Qianqian took out some hemostatic and anti-inflammatory powder from her storage ring and sprinkled it on the wound, then took out some gauze to wrap the wound. Shi Yuan and Nan Wu looked at Su Qianqian's familiarity with the procedure and were shocked and impressed. It was not just that she knew a little bit of medical skills, she was even better than many witch doctors in Wanshou City, wasn't she? However, where they couldn't see, Su Qianqian's fingertips wrapped in gauze gently stroked Shifeng's wound, and a few strands of wood-based supernatural powers penetrated in without leaving a trace. Now her ability has been upgraded to the 5th level. In addition to the ability to heal wounds, she can also detoxify. So, after Su Qianqian bandaged the wound, Shifeng felt that his calf suddenly stopped hurting, and even the poison that paralyzed his entire leg seemed to have disappeared out of thin air. But he did not think about it in the direction of supernatural powers, but thought that the powder that Su Qianqian had just sprinkled on his legs had a detoxifying effect. Clasped his fists towards Su Qianqian with great gratitude. Thank you, Sumu. You saved my life this time. I will definitely repay you with my own life in the future.
No. No.
Su Qianqian waved her hands quickly. Don't make it so serious. It's just a piece of cake. I never knew, Brother Sumo, that you actually have such a skill. Shi Yuan was so excited that he put his arm around Su Qianqian's shoulders. I think you should just go with us to deal with the man-eating beast. If you have the ability to detoxify, why would we be afraid of that thing? This time, Nan Wu did not stop him and looked at Su Qianqian expectantly. Su Mu, how about you help us this time, and when the bounty comes out, we will give you half. Su Qianqian smiled helplessly. I was going to go into the forest of all beasts to take a look. I can help you, but I don't need the reward. No, since you helped, the reward must be shared with you. Shi Yuan said and couldn't help asking. By the way, why did you come to the forest of 10,000 beasts? Is there anything you need? We can help you too. Su Qianqian said. I want to find the orcs from the Grey Wolf tribe. They took away one of my slaves. What? They are so hateful. Sumo, don't worry, I will help you find them and teach them a lesson. Shi Yuan waved his fist proudly. Shi Fong asked seriously, did you come to the forest of 10,000 beasts because you have any news about them? Su Qianqian nodded. I heard from the orcs in the city that they headed east after leaving the city. The Grey Wolf tribe is in the southern part of the continent. If they want to return to the tribe, they should go to the south, but they came to the east. The only thing in the eastern direction of Wanshou City is this forest. That's why Su Qianqian suspected that they might have entered the forest of beasts. Okay then, we'll go into the forest and help you look for it. Shi Fong said. Su Qianqian shook her head. Don't be so polite. Let's finish your bounty mission first. Shi Yuan opened his arms, holding Shi Fong in one hand and Su Qianqian in the other, and said with a heroic smile, All right, stop arguing. Let's do these two things together. 10,000 beasts was much larger than they had imagined. Su Qianqian and Shi Fong's group walked for an entire afternoon before they reached the vicinity of the man-eating beasts they had mentioned. This place is located in the easternmost part of the forest of all beasts and is a large piece of fertile land. However, there are no plants or animals within the area of hundreds of miles. There is only a giant carnivorous plant growing in the center, with countless thorny vines extending dozens of meters from the base of the flower and leaves. Whenever there are wild animals or orcs passing by, the vines will be like hunters lying in ambush for a long time, quickly tying up the prey with the thorny vines. The poison in the thorns will pierce the prey's body and instantly paralyze the prey's nerves, making it impossible for it to escape and eventually be sucked by the carnivorous plant. As a result, there are no animals or plants living within hundreds of miles around this carnivorous plant. It is a bare patch of land, which looks very desolate. Su Qianqian almost had to raise her head to barely see the entire carnivorous plant. This carnivorous plant has devoured countless wild beasts and orcs. It has grown into a giant flower bud several meters high. The vines are also thick and strong. Ordinary orcs and beasts can hardly escape its bondage. Nanwu said, This piranha plant is very difficult to deal with, much more difficult than described in the bounty mission, so no one has accepted it for many years. They took on this mission in the beginning because they underestimated the carnivorous plant. They didn't expect that after all the hard work they found out they were no match for it. They originally wanted to give up this mission when they returned to the city to find the witch doctor, but after meeting Su Qianqian, they decided to give it another try. Su Qianqian took a quick look and then took a light step forward. The vines seemed to sense her presence and rushed towards her. Even from a distance, the thorns on the vines sprayed venom like a king cobra, and the venom could reach several meters away. Su Qianqian quickly withdrew her foot. This thing is really hard to deal with. It is difficult for ordinary people to get close to these vines, let alone deal with a flower bud surrounded by numerous vines. If you want to deal with this man-eating plant, you must first deal with these vines. Su Qianqian looked at the dense vines around her, thought for a while, then turned to Shi Yuan and the others and said, I have an idea. Help me collect some firewood.
Huh?
Shi Yuan and his companions were stunned when they heard this, and asked in confusion, Sumo, do you want to burn the man-eating beast with fire? But its body is covered with plants, so it can't be lit. Su Qianqian curled her lips. Don't worry, I have a way. Shi Yuan and his companions went to collect firewood, sank her consciousness into her storage ring, and began to look for the supplies she had previously purchased from the modern plain merchant. When Shi Yuan and his companions brought in several piles of firewood, they saw Su Qianqian conjure up several large buckets of yellow, sticky liquid like water, and was pouring it around the man-eating beast's vines. What is this, Sumo? Shi Yuan asked curiously. Su Qianqian said, This is peanut oil, the type of oil that is most likely to ignite.
Peanut.
Oil? Shi Yuan nodded thoughtfully. He knew about oils. When he was in the tribe, the tribesmen would scrape off a thick layer of fat from the fat of wild beasts when they ate them. But he had never heard of peanut oil. It was probably something unique to Suma's tribe. After pouring a circle of peanut oil around the area where the piranha plant was located, Su Qianqian asked Shi Yuan and others to surround the area with the firewood they had picked up. In this way, with the firewood and oil, the fire would not be easy to extinguish and could continue to spread outward. After all, there were no plants around the piranha plant that could be used as fuel. Finally, it's time to light the fire. Just as Su Qianqian was about to take out her lighter, Nanwu next to her took out a black stone from his arms, rubbed it hard twice, and sparks came out. Su Qianqian's eyes lit up. It turned out that there was such a thing as flint in the beast world. She had never seen it before. Flint is one of the essential items for orcs when traveling. When hunting outside, they have to camp in the wild, make fire, and roast food. Flint can provide fire and light for the orcs. Nanwu used the flint to light the firewood at his feet in 2 or 3 strokes, then turned to ask Su Qianqian. Su Mu, what should we do next second? Wait for the fire to start. The piranha plant is a plant after all, and the land is fertile and humid, so it is difficult to start a fire. But with the help of peanut oil, Shi Yuan and his companions soon had a fire burning fiercely, which became even hotter under the scorching sun. The vines of the carnivorous plants that were entwined everywhere retreated suddenly, as if they were under unbearable stimulation. This method is really useful, Shi Yuan said excitedly. Suma, you are so smart. You can come up with this method to deal with this man-eating beast. Fire overcomes wood. This man-eating beast is huge and poisonous. Ordinary people can't get close to it. We can only use this method to burn its vines first. As she spoke, Su Qianqian gave each of them another bucket of peanut oil and continued to pour it on the vines of the carnivorous plant. The vines were still trying to swing their branches to hit him, but after Shi Yuan poured the peanut oil, he turned around and hid behind them, making faces at the vines in a mean way. Come on, come on. Oh, it's a pity that you can't hit me. The vine of the carnivorous plant twisted wildly in anger, trying to suck Shi Yuan, but there was a raging fire all around, and it didn't dare to come over. Shi Yuan looked more and more proud. Come on, come on. You were very powerful before, and you even dared to hurt our boss. Why don't you dare to come over now? The people nearby watched the scene speechlessly and helplessly. Nanwu resisted the urge to kick him twice and said, Stop messing around and get back to work. The vines of the piranha plant have been retracted, so we can just attack the flower bud in the center. However, at this moment, the giant flower bud several meters high suddenly shook violently and made a frightened and anxious sound. Ah, it's so hot. What happened outside? Why is it so hot? Several people were stunned. Shi Yuan was so frightened that he almost dropped the oil barrel in his hand. Why is this man-eating beast talking? Is it a spirit? What man-eating beast? The giant flower bud began to shake violently, and its round bottom seemed to be suffering from indigestion, expanding and shrinking. Where is this? Why am I in there? Orcs, come quickly and save me. Shifang's face darkened instantly. There is an orc in the stomach of the man-eating beast. Shi Yuan immediately stopped pouring the peanut oil and asked in surprise, What should we do? Will this fire burn the orc in the man-eating beast's stomach to death? Su Qianqian also stopped and said, Don't pour the remaining peanut oil. Just push those vines back. Looking at the huge bud of the carnivorous plant, there is probably more than one orc inside. At this moment, the fire had spread to within 2 or 3 meters of the piranha plant. Some vines were inevitably burned, and all shrank back. Shi Yuan and Shifang tried to get closer to the piranha plant and attack the flower bud with the stone spears in their hands, but as soon as they got close, the vines would suddenly stretch out and attack them. After several attempts, Shifang was almost attacked by the poisonous spikes again. No way. Shi Yuan wiped the sweat off his head. Without fire, the man-eating beast will not be afraid of us. We still can't deal with it. Seeing this, Su Qianqian raised her hand and condensed a few ice cones, which hit the bud of the carnivorous plant directly. However, The sharp ice cone hit the piranha plant without leaving even a trace. Nan Wu shook his head. No, that guy is not afraid of the attack of the ice cone. I don't know how many years the piranha plant has lived in this land. It has experienced all kinds of hot and cold seasons in the animal world. Even if it was covered by hail and snow in the cold season, it still persevered and survived to this day. Would it be afraid of the attack of icicles?
Shukiankian frowned tightly.
This carnivorous plant was not difficult to deal with. It could be burned with fire, but there was a living orc hidden inside it, which made it difficult to deal with. As the fire gradually weakened, the carnivorous plant seemed to know that Su Qianqian and the others were helpless, and it retracted its vines and stretched them out again triumphantly, heading straight for Shi Yuan, who had just provoked it. Shi Yuan was so scared that he dodged repeatedly, but the vines kept chasing him, as if seeking revenge. Why do you keep chasing me? Finally, Shi Yuan had no other choice but to hide behind Su Qianqian. Brother Su Mu, please save me. When the vines were approaching her face, Su Qianqian was silent for only a second, then she took out an electric saw. As the sound of sizzling was heard, the vine that was rushing towards him was instantly cut into several pieces. As if realizing the horror of this thing, the piranha plant frantically withdrew its vines. Come on! Su Qianqian raised the chainsaw and approached the carnivorous plant step by step. The carnivorous plant was so scared that its entire bud was shaking. All the vines gathered together, twisted into several strands, and tightly wrapped around the central bud, as if it was extremely afraid of what was in Su Qianqian's hand. The people nearby were stunned where they stood. No, what the hell is this? Why does it feel like the man-eating beasts are more afraid of this thing than fire? At this moment, Su Qianqian, relying on the chainsaw in her hand, has already arrived in front of the carnivorous plant. The piranha plant was so scared that it almost shrank into a ball. The entire bud was trembling. The vines hugged it helplessly, like arms. It felt like if it had legs, it would have run away in fear. Seeing the piranha plant trembling with fear, Su Qianqian threatened deliberately. Hurry up and spit out everything you ate. The piranha plant seemed to understand human language completely. It quickly revealed its buds, opened its petals suddenly, and spit out a living orc with a poo. Su Qianqian quickly took a step back. At the same time, an orc covered with smelly green pus fell down and flat on the ground. It hurts. Who on earth is this guy? He was halfway through his rant when he turned around and suddenly caught a glimpse of a giant carnivorous plant several meters tall behind him. He screamed in fear and tumbled towards Shi Yuan and his men. Help me. The unpleasant stench instantly hit him, and Shi Yuan quickly covered his nose and kicked the man away. Don't come over here. It stinks. Seeing this, Su Qianqian glanced at the bud of the piranha plant, which had not deflated at all, and said expressionlessly, Do you have anything else inside? Spit it all out, quickly. Then, the piranha plant spat out a half-digested skeleton. Su Qianqian took a glance and found that the skeleton was not that of an orc, but more like that of a long-eared rabbit. I guess a lone rabbit accidentally ran here and was swallowed by the piranha plant. Su Qianqian showed the chainsaw in her hand. What else? With a poo sound, a second-level beast crystal covered with smelly green pus fell at his feet. Su Qianqian. The air suddenly became silent, and even Shi Yuan and the others who were watching nearby stared at the second-level beast crystal in amazement. However, seeing that Su Qianqian didn't say anything, the carnivorous plant thought it was not enough and spit out 2 second-level beast crystals. Su Qianqian once again flashed the chainsaw in her hand. Good, keep spitting.
Poo. Poo.
After spitting out countless animal crystals and animal skeletons, the carnivorous plant that was originally several meters tall instantly shrank to half a meter in height, as if it had lost all its nutrients, and the round flower bud became deflated. Looking at the pile of animal crystals on the ground, Su Qianqian put away the chainsaw in her hand with satisfaction. Shi Yuan walked over pinching his nose, poked the beast crystal covered with smelly pus with a wooden stick, and said in a muffled voice, How many orcs has this man-eating beast devoured in the past? I don't think they are all orcs. Nanwu walked over and observed the beast crystals on the ground. Most of these are beast crystals of fierce beasts. This man-eating beast must have wiped out all the fierce beasts nearby. I've heard the priests in the tribe talk about this kind of man-eating beast before. They only survive by sucking blood and flesh, and don't absorb beast crystals. This beast crystal is probably what it has been storing in its stomach for the past few years. Haha, isn't this a bargain for us? Shi Yuan rubbed his hands excitedly, looking at the beast crystals all over the ground and said, I have never seen so many beast crystals in my life. We are rich. What are you talking about? Nanwu kicked him mercilessly again. Sumo was the one who dealt with the man-eating beasts, so these beast crystals naturally belonged to him. Shi Yuan dropped his head instantly. Shi Fong, who was standing next to him, also stepped forward and said, Sumo, you basically dealt with this man-eating beast by yourself, so you can take the beast crystal by yourself. But can you let us take this man-eating beast back to complete the task? Upon hearing this, Su Qianqian couldn't help but look at the carnivorous plant that had huddled into a small ball. It could barely stretch out its vines now, and it had lost its killing power. It could be killed with a stone spear. But this piranha plant seems to be very spiritual and can even understand human language. Su Qianqian narrowed her eyes, calmly opened the plane system, and checked it. Ding! Specialty of the beast world detected. Man-eating beast. A very spiritual and intelligent species, extremely rare. As if in disbelief, Su Qianqian blinked hard and looked at the information displayed on the system panel again. You read that right, it really is 1.2 billion. My god, this is even more valuable than the 1,000-year-old Ganoderma lucidum king I picked up in the misty forest before. Are all plants with intelligence so expensive?
Shuqianqian swallowed hard.
Then, she turned to face Shi Fong, rubbed her hands with a smile, and said, Shi Fong, I want to discuss something with you. Let's divide the beast crystals on the ground equally, and how about I give this man-eating plant to me?
Ah?
Before Shi Fong could speak, Shi Yuan beside him exclaimed in surprise. Sumo, are you stupid? Why do you want this man-eating beast? Su Qianqian coughed lightly and said calmly, I want to raise it for fun. But this thing is useless except for occupying territory and swallowing up all kinds of things. As if dissatisfied with Shi Yuan's words that it was useless, the carnivorous plant suddenly stretched out its slender vines and slapped Shi Yuan on the butt. Ouch! It hurts so much. Shi Yuan covered his butt and stepped back repeatedly, looking at the man-eating plant in front of him with horror. This thing has become a spirit. It will be a nuisance if it stays here. Sumo, do you really want to keep it? Su Qianqian nodded without hesitation. Shi Fong said, Since you want it, Sumo, then you can keep it. But for these beast crystals, just divide them equally. We only need to take a few. How is this possible? Su Qianqian was not so shameless as to take advantage of others. She had already received such a huge benefit from the piranha plant, she couldn't monopolize so many beast crystals by herself. She picked up a wooden stick and with some disgust, she scraped the beast crystals on the ground that were covered with smelly pus. There were more than 20 second-level beast crystals and more than 100 first-level beast crystals. In fact, these beast crystals are not that many, especially the first-level beast crystals. She can earn them back by selling sea crystal sand in a day. How about this? All the second-level beast crystals will belong to me, and we will split the first-level beast crystals equally. Su Qianqian said. Shi Fong nodded. But he still felt that his group had gotten a great advantage, so he took on the task of cleaning the beast crystals without saying a word. What about me? At this time, the orc who was spit out from the bud of the carnivorous plant suddenly spoke and pointed at himself. What do you mean by you? Shi Yuan wanted to kick him. We saved you, so it's good enough that we don't ask you for compensation. You still want to share the beast crystals with us? Go where you want to go. The orc curled his lips in grievance, his eyes still fixed on the pair of beast crystals with some reluctance. Suddenly, his eyes paused, as if he saw something, and then he pounced on the pile of beast crystals, ignoring the smelly pus, and pulled out a round bead from the pile of beast crystals. This is mine. Several people were stunned. What the hell is this? The orc held the pearl in his arms as if it were a treasure and said, "This is the mermaid pearl I exchanged with the orcs on the beach. It's not yours, so you should return it to me, right?" Sure Yuan snorted. "Who knows if you are lying to us?" The orc hurriedly said, "I didn't lie to you. This is the mermaid pearl made from the tears of the mermaid king. I spent a lot of beast crystals to exchange it with those orcs on the beach. If you don't believe me, you can confront them." The mermaid pearls transformed from the mermaid king's tears? In an instant, Su Qianqian's eyes lit up again. This thing should be valuable, right? She took a step forward, rubbing her hands, and said, "Well, can you show me your shark pearl?" Seeing this, the orc hugged the mermaid pearl tightly in his arms in fear. "What do you want to do?" "This is mine. I won't give it to anyone else." Su Qianqian glanced at the mermaid pearl in his arms. The mermaid king was a rare species in the beast world, so the pearl made of his tears must be very valuable. So he suggested, "How about this? How much beast crystals did you use to buy it? How about I exchange it with you for twice as much?" Unexpectedly, the orc shook his head and said, "I don't want the beast crystal. Mermaids don't cry easily, let alone the mermaid king who rules the entire mermaid tribe. There is only one mermaid pearl in the world. I bought it with great difficulty." "What did you say?" Sure Yuan, who was standing next to him, immediately clenched his fist towards him, his bones creaking, which was very intimidating. "Don't forget who saved you. My brother Su Mu bought the mermaid pearl from you, because he thinks highly of you. You'd better not be ungrateful." "Whoa, you actually want to force the sale?" The orc burst into tears under Sure Yuan's threat. "Whoa, I'm so miserable." "Oh, all right, if you don't want to sell it, just forget it. Stop crying." Su Qianqian waved her hands weakly. This guy was crying so hard that her ears hurt. She turned to Sure Yuan and said, "Don't force him. Let's pack up and leave." "Okay, I'll find a place to wash these beast crystals." Sure Yuan also knew that Su Qianqian came to the forest of 10,000 beasts for urgent matters, so he stopped making jokes and rolled up his animal skin sleeves to start picking up the beast crystals on the ground. Sure Fang also found a few leaves to put the beast crystals on and said, "The smell on these beast crystals is too strong. It will probably take a lot of water to wash them clean." Sure Yuan frowned, "But we don't even have drinking water. Where can we get water to wash the beast crystals?" Su Qianqian was about to say that she had water, when Namwa looked around and suddenly pointed to an open space not far behind the piranha plant and exclaimed, "Look, there seems to be a river there." Several people turned around to look. Originally, because of the several-meter-high buds of the piranha plant blocking the way, the few people hadn't noticed it much. Now, without the obstruction of the piranha plant, the river instantly came into view. The river is not big, but it has not dried up at all next to this fertile land, and there is a thin stream flowing like a creek. The water flow is not strong. It is no problem to drink water and wash things. The group of people rushed over impatiently as if they had discovered a new continent in the animal world, but it is a rare thing to have rivers in this hot season with scorching sun. Su Qianqian couldn't help but laugh as she looked at the people cheering by the river. "I have to say that the water and soil here are really good. There are rivers, trees, fertile land, and flat terrain. You can directly skip the process of land reclamation. It is simply the best location to build a home." Su Qianqian looked around and became more and more satisfied with this piece of land. Moreover, due to the existence of the man-eating plant, no one had ever set foot on this place, and there was no harassment from ferocious beasts. Building a home here was much safer than the place called Wanshou City, where people were eaten without leaving any bones. Then, Su Qianqian shifted her gaze to the carnivorous plant in front of her. Although this thing has become smaller and has no lethality, she wants to keep this land to build a house and cannot let it continue to take root there. What should she do with it? If I could raise it somewhere else. At this moment, Su Qianqian once again earnestly hoped in her heart, it would be great if she could have a spiritual field space where she could grow crops. After thinking about it, Su Qianqian reached out her hand and gently placed it on the bud of the piranha plant. Trembled slightly, as if with some fear. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was around, Su Qianqian lowered her voice and said, "Are you willing to be my pet? I'll take you to a good place." The bud didn't move, as if it was considering it. Su Qianqian didn't have time to wait for it to waste time, so she took out the chainsaw again and said sinisterly, "I'll ask you again, are you going or not? Go, go, go." The flower bud trembled wildly, rubbing against Su Qianqian's palm in a flattering and affectionate manner, quickly showing its loyalty. "That's good." Su Qianqian waved her hand and put the piranha plant into the storage space that came with the plane system. She clicked on the space and saw that there was indeed a flower bud called Pet Piranha Plant in the first grid. It was small but cute. Su Qianqian closed the plane system with satisfaction. She was just about to go to the river to look for Shifeng and the others when suddenly, she heard a quarrel over there. "We found this river. Get out of here. You want to die? I've lived here for a few days, and I've never seen you before. You are the ones who should get out." "What? You, an unreasonable white tiger orc, dare to? Sure Yuan. Don't be impulsive. That guy is a 4th level orc. What are you arguing about?" Su Qianqian looked up in confusion, only to see Shi Yuan being pulled by Nan Wu and Shifeng, and the man confronting him had silver hair, handsome and prominent facial features, was shirtless, had a burly figure, and a pair of amber eyes full of murderous intent. Seeing her coming, Nanwu quickly asked for help. "Sumu, come and persuade her." As he spoke, the silver-haired man looked over, but in an instant, his amber eyes filled with murderous intent froze, and the next second, the murderous intent disappeared completely. "Qianqian." The man's handsome face was full of surprise and smiles, and he pounced on him like a dog seeing a bone. Su Qianqian was caught off guard and was knocked to the ground by him. "Qianqian, it's you. It's really you." The man pressed on Su Qianqian as if he couldn't suppress the joy in his heart. His tail wagged happily, and he leaned against her neck, rubbing his head against her cheek, and was so happy that he forgot everything else. Several people from Shifeng rushed over and looked at the scene in shock. Only Shi Yuan, who was still stupid, pointed his stone spear at Baihu and shouted, "Do and hold my brother down. Get out of the way. Don't worry, Brother Sumo. I will save you." Su Qianqian. Huyang immediately changed his expression and said aggrievedly, "Qianqian, they bullied me." Su Qianqian. Huyang leaned closer to her neck with an even more aggrieved look, rubbing against her neck while complaining, "They just bullied me and wanted to chase me away. I was so scared. They also beat me and I almost got hurt." Su Qianqian.
Hee.
Still pretending. She saw it all, okay? You, a 4th level orc, are afraid of a few 2nd level orcs. Su Qianqian slapped Hu Yang's face away. "Get out of the way. Stop pressing on me."
You're so heavy.
Hu Yang immediately stood up obediently, but still stuck to Su Qianqian, and their behavior was very intimate. So you two know each other?" Shi Yuan looked at Hu Yang's actions in shock, then looked at Su Qianqian, his eyes gradually becoming weird. Realizing that she now looked like a handsome man standing 1.8 meters tall, Su Qianqian helplessly covered her face and said, "Wait for me for a moment." As he said that, he pulled Huyang to a distant corner. "Huyang, why are you here?" After making sure that Shi Yuan and the others couldn't hear anything, Su Qianqian quickly straightened her expression and asked, "Wasn't this guy always in the misty forest before?" Huyang opened his mouth, then came over with a playful smile. "Of course I came to see you." "Nonsense." Su Qianqian pushed his face away, totally disbelieving what he said. "Okay." Huyang lowered his head. "Actually, I'm lost." Su Qianqian frowned. "Then why are you in the forest of 10,000 beasts? When did you come to the city of 10,000 beasts?" Huyang lowered his head and said sullenly,
To avoid people.
"Hiding from people?" Su Qianqian was stunned when she heard that, and looked at Huyang again. It was rare to see this guy looking so depressed. Could it be that he really encountered some trouble and deliberately hid in the forest of beasts? Okay. Everyone has their own secrets, and Su Qianqian didn't intend to ask further, but instead asked helplessly, "How did you recognize me?" Of course it's the smell of you. I don't believe it. Su Qianqian looked at him expressionlessly. Don't dilly-dally. Tell the truth. Her disguise cloak can change not only her appearance, but also her smell. How could Baihu recognize her by smell? It must be due to some other reason.
Okay.
Seeing Su Qianqian's serious look, Huyang thought for a moment and told the truth. Actually, when we first met, I left my scent on you. I was able to recognize you at first glance, not because of your scent, but because of my own scent. Your smell? Su Qianqian was stunned and quickly lowered her head to sniff herself, but she couldn't smell anything at all. Haha, this is the unique smell of our White Tiger clan. Of course you can't smell it, and neither can others. Only I can smell it. Huyang raised his head with some pride. You brat. Su Qianqian finally couldn't stand it anymore and pulled the tip of Huyang's ear, lowering her voice and gritting her teeth. It turns out that I have been tricked by you, a sinister guy. Hurry up, help me get rid of this smell. She remembered that when they first met, Huyang pressed her down for a long time in his beast form, and the smell must have been acquired at that time. Huyang twitched his ears and said aggrievedly, I can't control it either. Who told you to come in when I was in heat? Estrus season? Su Qianqian was stunned, then silently withdrew her hand. She was in the Grey Wolf tribe. She had heard Jillian say that some beasts would emit a unique smell when they were in estrus, and only the beasts themselves could recognize this smell. Su Qianqian rubbed her forehead and asked helplessly, Then, do you have any way to remove this smell from me? She didn't want to live with this smell for the rest of her life. Otherwise, no matter what she looked like, Huyang would be able to recognize her at a glance. Huyang shook his head. There is no way. This smell is just like the mark of the beast. Only when I die will the smell I left on you disappear. He was hiding there alone just to avoid other females, preparing to silently endure the estrus period. Who knew that Su Qianqian would suddenly break into his world at that time? From then on, he became out of control. Su Qianqian. Qianqian, don't be angry, I was wrong. Seeing that Su Qianqian began to remain silent again, Huyang was afraid that she would ignore him, so he hurriedly pulled Su Qianqian's hand and shook it to beg, I will never do this again. Please don't ignore me. This time, Su Qianqian did not withdraw her hand. Instead, she looked at Huyang and said seriously, Before I left you alone in the misty forest, weren't you angry? I'm not angry, I'm not angry. Huyang shook his head repeatedly and said seriously, I think you must have left for something important, so you couldn't stay with me. And you helped me heal my wounds before you left, so of course I'm not angry. Shuqianqian. If you're not angry, why are you taking it out on the beasts in the misty forest? Do you know what the beasts outside are saying about you? They all say that a plague god has come to the misty forest. Huyang paused, then curled his lips and said, I thought you were eaten by a wild beast in the forest, so I wanted to help you get revenge. Okay. Su Qianqian held her forehead helplessly, then straightened her expression and said, Let's not talk about this. Huyang, you should have noticed that my appearance has changed, so don't call me by my name anymore. Call me Sumo, understand?
Mo.
Huyang's thin lips moved slightly, and he whispered 2 words softly, then nodded vigorously. Okay, I remember it. Also, Su Qianqian thought for a moment and reminded, They're my friends. You can't bully them in the future. If they ask you why you know me, just say that we have met before and are friends. Remember?
Yeah.
Huyang nodded obediently. I remember everything. After explaining everything that needed to be explained, Su Qianqian brought Huyang back to Shi Fang and the others. Everyone, I'm sorry for what happened just now. This is my friend, Huyang. He is from the White Tiger tribe, and I have known him for a long time. Su Qianqian pulled Huyang and introduced him to everyone. Huyang was also very considerate and bowed slightly to apologize to Shi Yuan and the others. I'm very sorry, I didn't know that you were Qian Su Mu's friends before. I shouldn't have treated you in that way. It's okay, it's okay. Shi Yuan waved his hands quickly, his eyes shifting from Su Qianqian to Huyang. Our attitudes just now weren't good either, haha. We can be considered to have known each other for a long time. At this point, Witnessed by Su Qianqian and Shi Fang and others, the two shook hands and made peace. After this brief interlude, it was almost dark. The group gathered together again, made a fire with flints, and chatted while roasting meat. Shi Fang wrapped the beast crystal that he had spent the whole afternoon cleaning neatly with leaves and placed it in front of Su Qianqian, saying, "Sumu, smell it, is there any smell?" Su Qianqian opened the leaves in front of her. After the animal crystals inside were cleaned, not only did the fishy smell that went straight to her nose disappear, but each one was also as smooth as jade, with a crystal-like luster all over, which was very beautiful. "Wow, Shi Fang, you washed it so clean." Su Qianqian picked up a second-level beast crystal and took a look at it. She couldn't help but admire Shi Fang's patience. These beast crystals had been in the belly of the man-eating plant for several years, and the stench had probably been pickled into it, but Shi Fang was still able to wash it so clean. "Haha, I'm glad you don't mind. I'll go help them grill the meat." Shi Fang scratched his head embarrassedly, then stood up to help Shi Yuan and the others. He was completely busy. When Shi Yuan saw him, he quickly handed over the burnt meat in his hand. "Hey, Shi Fang, you're finally here. Help me take a look. Why is this meat burnt? I clearly learned how to roast it the same way you did last time. You have to keep turning it while roasting to prevent it from getting burnt. Give it to me, I'll roast it." Shi Fang took the barbecue and sat next to the fire. While roasting the meat, he patiently explained it to Shi Yuan. Although he is the team leader among the three on the surface, overall he is more like the patriarch among the three, with the mentality of an old lady, worrying about everything and doing it himself. Su Qianqian looked at them, and her mind became active again. Shi Fang and his group were really good, capable, and loyal. Why not bring them into her own tribe in the future? Anyway, they have no chance of getting ahead in Wanzhou City, and they risk their lives every day for the meager bounty rewards. Just as I was thinking about it, Huyang came over with the barbecue in his hand and whispered, "Qian, stop daydreaming and try the barbecue I gave you." Su Qianqian withdrew her gaze and looked at the barbecue in Huyang's hand. It was not much better than the one in Shi Yuan's hand, and was half-cooked. "Forget it, I'll just eat what I brought with me." Su Qianqian decisively took out a piece of dried meat that she had made before from her storage ring and started eating. "No, this is the first time I grilled meat, specially for you, just try it." As if he couldn't see the disgust on Su Qianqian's face, Huyang kept moving the grilled meat towards Su Qianqian. Su Qianqian. She turned her head away silently, looking like she didn't want to pay any attention to Huyang at all. "Just try it." Seeing that Su Qianqian ignored him, Huyang became more and more coquettish. The looks of the people around him became increasingly weird. Shi Yuan said with an unbearable look on his face, "No, I mean, Huyang. Why are you always pestering Sumu? Is this behavior appropriate? How is Sumu going to find a female in the future?" He finished speaking. Huyang, who was originally acting coquettishly on Su Qianqian, was stunned. He didn't know what words had offended him. He suddenly turned his head and glared at Shi Yuan sinisterly. "Just take care of yourself." After saying that, he turned his head again, put on a cheerful smile, and started to act coquettishly towards Su Qianqian again. "No, why do you have two faces?" Shi Yuan just came back to his senses from the gloomy eyes and immediately cursed angrily. "Do you still have any shame? I didn't say anything wrong. Why don't you let me take care of it? You always pester Sumu." All right. Nanwu quickly stuffed the meat that Shi Fang had roasted into his mouth, blocking Shi Yuan's cursing mouth. "Can't you see that they have a good relationship? Stop bothering them all the time. Is that what we call a good relationship?" Shi Yuan said in confusion as he bit into the barbecue. "Look, Su Mu doesn't even want to talk to Huyang." Nanwu. Finally, unable to bear Huyang's nagging anymore, Su Qianqian stuffed the half-eaten meat into his mouth and said, "Shut up and eat quietly." As soon as Huyang took a bite of the delicious jerky, he no longer cared about the paste in his hand. He held the jerky and started eating it with satisfaction. The world is finally quiet. Su Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief. She was tired of eating the dried meat, so she took out a piece of scallion and egg pancake from her storage ring and started eating it. It is not enough to eat these alone. In order to maintain physical strength, Su Qianqian also put some rice balls made of spiritual rice in the scallion egg pancake in advance, and squeezed some pickles and salad dressing into the rice balls. It tasted delicious and filling. Everyone was used to her frequently taking things from the space. Even Huyang was not surprised. Instead, Shan Bai in the corner looked at Su Qianqian with disbelief. Shan Bai was the orc they had rescued from the belly of the piranha plant. He had originally come to the forest of all beasts with his companions to complete a mission, but he encountered danger on the way and was abandoned by his companions. He also accidentally walked into the territory of the piranha plant. At this moment, he was huddled in a corner. Even though he had washed several times in the river, he still smelled bad, so he didn't dare to get too close to everyone. Well. Shan Bai looked at the food in Su Qianqian's hand with hesitation, and finally mustered up the courage to speak. "Can you give me some of the jerky you just ate? It looks delicious." After saying that, as if afraid that Su Qianqian would not agree, he hurriedly added, I can exchange things with you." Everyone brought food with them and roasted it over the fire, but he had nothing except the pearl that was made from the tears of the Mermaid King. Su Qianqian nodded. "Of course." After saying that, he took out 2 pieces of dried meat from his storage ring and threw them toward Shan Bai. Shan Bai quickly took it. He didn't rush to eat it, but glanced at Su Qianqian. However, the other party didn't seem to care at all whether he would give her anything or not, and continued to lower her head to eat her own food. Shan Bai couldn't help but remain silent, then took a small bite of the dried meat in his hand. The next second, his eyes widened. "No, how come this meat jerky is so delicious?" Shan Bai seemed to have suddenly opened up a new world and started eating with big mouthfuls. But in the blink of an eye, he had eaten up the piece of jerky cleanly, and he licked his lips with satisfaction. In his hand, and he was reluctant to eat it. "How is this meat jerky so delicious? I wish I could eat it every day." Thinking of this, Shan Bai raised his head and looked in Su Qianqian's direction several times. Then, as if he had made up his mind, he stood up and walked towards Su Qianqian. When Huyang saw him coming, he immediately stopped eating the jerky in his hand and immediately protected Su Qianqian behind him, saying sternly, "What do you want to do?" Shan Bai quickly said, Don't misunderstand me. I just want to discuss a deal with Su Mu." Seeing Su Qianqian looking at him, he quickly took out the mermaid pearl hidden in his arms and said, "Sumu, do you still want to use this mermaid pearl? I am willing to exchange it with you, but you have to exchange it with 20 pieces of dried meat." Su Qianqian tilted her head slightly. "You only want 20 pieces of jerky?" Shan Bai nodded repeatedly. Earlier, Su Qianqian immediately pulled a clean leaf over and waved her hand. A pile of dried meat was neatly stacked on the leaf. Each piece was the size of a palm, with thick meat and extremely delicious taste. Shan Bai's eyes lit up. Looking at so much dried meat, he felt like his saliva was watering. Su Qianqian skillfully packed 20 pieces of dried meat and handed them over. "Here you go." Shan Bai took it quickly and handed over the mermaid pearl hastily. As soon as Su Qianqian got the mermaid pearl, she couldn't wait to open the plane system to check it. But when she turned around, she saw Huyang staring at her, his aggrieved eyes full of accusations. "No, what's wrong with this guy?" "Su Qianqian, what do you want to do?" Huyang then reluctantly said, "I want one too." "Shu Qianqian, you can't finish that much." "I don't care. Why did you give a strange orc so much dried meat? You must give me some compensation." Huyang stared at her relentlessly, and his eyes inadvertently fell on Su Qianqian's rosy lips. Su Qianqian helplessly spread her hands. "He exchanged that for me with the shark pearl. I have some too." Huyang waved his hand, and a pile of beast crystals suddenly appeared in front of Su Qianqian. "I'll trade these beast crystals with you." Su Qianqian subconsciously glanced at the pile of beast crystals. Wow, they were almost all second-level beast crystals, with a few third-level ones mixed in. "It's impossible not to be moved," she said. "Okay, what do you want to change?" Huyang immediately pointed to his lips. "Su Qianqian, Past memories flowed through her mind like running water. Su Qianqian felt helpless when she thought about how she had used this trick to coax Hu Yang to listen to her in the misty forest. Why is this guy still thinking about it? But Su Qianqian said, "No. Why?" Hu Yang immediately felt wronged. "Isn't the beast crystal I gave enough? Look at me now, can I do this?" Su Qianqian pulled the tip of Hu Yang's ear and lowered her voice. "Shi Yuan and the others are right next to you. Do you want them to look at you with strange eyes? Then I'll drive them all away." Hu Yang glanced at Shi Yuan and the others beside him, and a sinister look flashed across his eyes. "If I say no, it means no." Su Qianqian really wanted to pry open Hu Yang's head and see what was inside. How could such a handsome guy have such unrealistic ideas all day long? Behave yourself, and don't always behave like this in front of them. If they doubt my identity because of you, I will never talk to you again. After saying these harsh words, Su Qianqian ignored Hu Yang's aggrieved look and got up and left. She was afraid that if she stayed any longer, the brainless guy Hu Yang would really pounce on her. However, Su Qianqian didn't know that as soon as she left, Hu Yang's aggrieved expression instantly disappeared, and he turned to look at Shi Yuan and the others beside him with gloomy eyes. It's all these guys' fault. If they weren't in the way, Qianqian wouldn't be so reluctant to get close to him. If only these guys didn't exist. At the same time, in an open space not far from Shi Fang and the others, Su Qianqian picked a sturdy tree, tapped her toes, and jumped onto the treetop. "I won't be disturbed if I stay here, right?" Su Qianqian chose a comfortable spot on the tree and sat down, then opened the plane system and began to test the mermaid pearl in her hand. Ding! Detected the specialty of the Beast World continent, the mermaid pearl. Made from the tears of the Mermaid King, it has the effect of repelling water when carried with you. Reference price: 260,000 star coins. 260,000 star coins? Not bad, not bad. The price is not bad. Although 260,000 star coins may not sound high, you should know that this mermaid pearl is just a teardrop. One tear is worth 260,000 star coins, which is already quite valuable. Su Qianqian couldn't help squinting her eyes and began to imagine, what if she could catch a mermaid and raise her, find a small whip to whip him every day, make him cry every day, and drop little pearls, then she got rich. Didn't she? Su Qianqian put the mermaid pearl into the storage ring, then opened the system mall and took a look. She now has 700 million star coins in her account, so she can buy basically anything she wants. However, Su Qianqian did not dare to spend the money recklessly. She wanted to save it and buy a spiritual field space when she had enough. She looked at the system mall again these days and found that the cheapest spiritual field space only cost 10 billion star coins. This price was out of reach for her before, and she couldn't even think about it. But after attending an auction and seeing the peaches worth trillions, Su Qianqian suddenly felt that these 10 billion star coins were not that much. Since you are buying space, you should naturally buy the best. Anyway, my lifespan is so long now. If I save up star coins slowly in 1,000 years, I will be able to collect enough star coins to buy a spiritual field space. At worst, she still has the compensation from the auction. That ball of 9 heavens Shirong the size of a fingernail could be sold for tens of billions if it were put up for auction. Speaking of auctions, Su Qianqian couldn't help but take out the small stone that she had bought at the auction before. She still didn't know what this thing was. Looking at the small stone with the luster of obsidian in the palm of her hand, Su Qianqian frowned slightly. She felt that the more she looked at it, the more familiar it seemed. Where had she seen it before? Thinking and thinking. Suddenly, as if a flash of inspiration came to her mind, Su Qianqian suddenly remembered that there seemed to be a small stone in her storage ring. She immediately immersed her consciousness into the storage ring and searched it. Sure enough, she found the identical pebble in the utility room. Thinking back to when she first bought this storage ring, she sorted out the sundries inside and found such a small stone mixed in with the sundries. At first, she thought it was some kind of ore. Su Qianqian took the pebbles and compared them. No matter the shape, size, or color, they were exactly the same. It was impossible to say that the two things had nothing to do with each other. She was just about to use the plane system to check it out when the two pebbles suddenly merged together, as if by some kind of suction. In an instant, an extremely terrifying force burst out from the two pebbles, almost tearing the surrounding space apart. The next second, Su Qianqian, who was sitting on the tree, suddenly disappeared. When she opened her eyes, Su Qianqian saw a shocking scene. The boundless space seemed to have no end in sight. The sky was foggy and there was no sun. There was nothingness all around, and a chaotic atmosphere was floating in the air. Where is this? Su Qianqian looked around in shock, completely unaware of where she was. Although it was foggy all around, it was very comfortable to stay inside. The air was fresh, giving people a refreshing feeling. Su Qianqian quickly opened the plane system and was about to test it, but the mechanical system's sound had already sounded. Ding. Congratulations to the host for opening the blessed land hidden within the realm stone. The originally emotionless mechanical sound actually carried a hint of excitement. Su Qianqian was stunned when she heard this. It turned out that the two small stones would become the realm stone after being combined. So, what is this blessed land and cave? Su Qianqian quickly checked the annotations given by the plane system. The realm origin stone. This thing is invisible and traceless, neither real nor illusory, constantly changing, and has disappeared between heaven and earth for who knows how many tens of thousands of years. Only people with great opportunities can get the fragments of the realm origin stone, open the cave contained in it, and enter calmly. This cave is rich in vital energy, which is a higher existence than spiritual energy. It is very primitive and can be understood as the origin of spiritual energy. Practicing in it for 1 day is equivalent to practicing outside for 1,000 days. When Su Qianqian read to the end, she suddenly realized that the comfortable breath just now was the legendary vital energy. This boundary stone is just an alternative spiritual field space, but compared to the real spiritual field space, the boundary stone should be more advanced. After all, other spiritual field spaces contain spiritual energy, while the space formed by her boundary stone is full of vital energy that is more advanced than spiritual energy. But Su Qianqian looked up at the foggy sky. This was caused by the incomplete space formed by the boundary stone. The system panel also said that a piece of realm stone had 3 fragments, and now only 2 have been collected, so the open space is incomplete, but it can basically be used. Su Qianqian looked around and could hardly see the end of the space. She looked down at her feet and saw flat and fertile land. Her face. This should also be able to be used for farming, right? After thinking about it, Su Qianqian immediately took out the vegetable seeds she had bought from the modern dimension merchant and sprinkled some on it, such as radishes, cabbages, corns, potatoes, eggplants, and the like. But she didn't sprinkle much of each kind. After all, she was not sure whether the land inside the realm stone could grow vegetable seeds, so she would give it a try first. If she can't grow it, she will take the realm yuan stone to an auction and sell it. It will surely fetch hundreds of billions of star coins, and she will have enough money to buy this spiritual field space. After planting, Su Qianqian thoughtfully watered the seeds. After doing all this, Su Qianqian left the space with a thought. After leaving the space, she was still sitting on the tree, motionless. Su Qianqian looked down at the 2 small stones in her hand and couldn't help but wonder where the third piece was. If the 3 small stones are put together, what will the space formed by the complete boundary stone look like? After thinking for a while, Su Qianqian shook her head again. Forget it. She shouldn't be so wishful thinking. She was already lucky enough to get 2 fragments of the realm stone. She shouldn't even dream of getting the 3rd fragment. It was good enough now. After thinking about it, Su Qianqian prepared to put the boundary stone made of 2 small stones into the storage ring, but found that she couldn't put it in no matter what she did. Even the storage space that comes with the plane system cannot be stored. It should be a problem that the space cannot be superimposed. There was no other way. Su Qianqian could only carry this realm stone with her. She found a rope, tied a knot, tied the realm stone around her neck, and put it in her pocket. This way it would be safer and wouldn't be discovered. After doing all this, Su Qianqian looked at the sky. It was dark and it was getting late, so she jumped down from the tree and prepared to look for Shi Yuan and the others. However, as soon as she reached the place where they had originally made a fire and grilled meat, she heard a loud noise. We discovered this place first.
Get out.
Brother, don't be so stingy. The forest outside is full of ferocious beasts. Only this area is safe. Just let us stay here for one night.
No.
We discovered this place first. Why should we let you stay here? Why did the land grab happen again? Listening to the noise, Su Qianqian shook her head helplessly and strode over, only to find that the two orcs confronting Shi Yuan and the others were Lang Yan and He Mu. She was startled, and seeing Shi Yuan holding a stone spear and trying to drive the two away, she quickly said, "Shi Yuan, stop." Hearing the sound, everyone turned to look at her.
Qian. Sumu.
Hu Yang rushed over to her as usual, stuck to her, and asked aggrievedly, "Where have you been? I went to look for you just now, but couldn't find you. I was scared to death. I thought you were gone again." Su Qianqian didn't have time to joke with him. She just patted his head in a comforting manner, then looked at Lang Yan and Shi Yuan and said, "Shi Yuan, don't chase them away yet. I have something to ask them." She walked over and looked at Lang Yan and He Mu seriously, then coughed and asked, "You two look familiar. Are you orcs from the Grey Wolf tribe?" "Yes, we are from the Grey Wolf tribe." He Mu nodded, looking puzzled. "Do you know us?" "I can't say I know you guys." Su Qianqian smiled. "It's just, I heard that you two took away an orc 10 days ago. Is that true?" He Mu subconsciously glanced at Lang Yan beside him. Lang Yan, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke up. "I did take an orc away 10 days ago. May I ask what your relationship is with that orc, and why are you looking for him?"
He is my slave.
Su Qianqian said with a smirk, her eyes circling around the two of them again. "Where's that guy? Why isn't he with you?" "He left after he woke up." Lang Yan said. "Really?" Su Qianqian narrowed her eyes slightly, as if trying to determine whether he was lying or not. "He left alone?" "That's right." Lang Yan suddenly raised the corner of his lip and looked deeply at Su Qianqian. He said that he was abandoned by his master and had nothing to live for. He no longer had any meaning to live. Su Qianqian. "So it was you who abandoned him?" Shi Yuan leaned over and whispered, "I think you are too cruel. You made him feel hopeless. Do you think he would commit suicide after leaving you?" "Shut up." Su Qianqian turned her head and glared at him. Shi Yuan then shut up in dismay. Su Qianqian then asked Lang Yan, "Then, do you know where he went?" Lang Yan shook his head.
Okay.
Su Qianqian sighed in disappointment, and the last clue was gone. However, Yin Shua shouldn't be that fragile, and the system has also detected that he is alive and well. He is probably hiding in a corner of a tree canopy to heal his wounds. Su Qianqian was speechless and helpless. It was very difficult to find a big flying bird like this because you didn't know whether it was hiding in a tree hole or in a nest on a tree. "Forget it, I won't look for it anymore." For a two-legged beast like her, who can't fly, it is too difficult to find a big flying bird. She will wait until she takes the slaves of the city of beasts away and establishes a tribe, and then look for him when she has time. Having made up her mind, Su Qianqian said to Shifeng, "Shifeng, let's go back to Wanshou City tomorrow." Shi Yuan came closer again and said, "Why, you really don't want to look for her anymore? What if she really wants to commit suicide because you abandoned her?" This time, before Su Qianqian could speak, Hu Yang next to him punched him first. "Shut up. I told you to stop talking, didn't you hear me?" There seemed to be some jealousy hidden in this angry, "Shut up." Is the slave that Qianqian is looking for? Why do you care about him so much? The more Hu Yang thought about it, the angrier he got, but he didn't show it on his face. After beating Shi Yuan, he turned around and stuck to Su Qianqian, saying, "Qian, Sumu, don't listen to his nonsense. He's just a slave. It's not worth it for you to look for him like this. Let's go back to Wanshou City tomorrow. I know where slaves are sold in Wanshou City. I'll help you pick out some obedient ones." Su Qianqian couldn't bear it anymore and pushed away his handsome face. "Stand still. Stay away from me." No, I just want to stick to you. Hu Yang pushed harder and harder, constantly sticking to Su Qianqian, while still unsatisfiedly putting his arms around her waist. He Mu, who was watching this scene nearby, was gradually petrified. Shi Yuan touched his stomach, which was hurt from being beaten, patted his shoulder with empathy, and said, "You'll get used to it." Kuroki. However, Lang Yan next to him frowned slightly, staring at Su Mu's face, his gray-blue eyes slightly narrowed. Very familiar. Whether it is the facial expressions or the small habits in behavior that are inadvertently revealed, they are all very familiar. Familiar that it seemed unbelievable to him. Are there two people in this world who are so similar except for their smell? At this time, Shi Fang also walked over, patted Haima's other shoulder, and said, "Since you are members of the Grey Wolf tribe, you should stay and rest." Really? He Mu's face lit up instantly. Shi Fang nodded. They originally wanted to guard against stray orcs, fearing that they would attack at night. Since they knew that the two were orcs from the Grey Wolf tribe and they were kind enough to provide clues to Su Qianqian, they were all friends, and there would be no problem if they stayed. "Thank you very much," He Mu said quickly. "Lang Yan and I are also going back to Wanzhou City tomorrow. Let's go together. We'll have someone to keep us company on the road." "Okay." Shi Fang nodded kindly. Gentle and friendly attitude very much, and after a while, the two of them started chatting in a friendly manner. Shi Yuan had no choice but to go back to find Nan Wu to keep him company. Among the few people, Lang Yan suddenly became a lone man. Nan Wu was just about to wave to him to come over, but he saw the man suddenly take a step forward and walk towards Su Qianqian and Hu Yang. Shi Yuan chuckled. It seems that Hu Yang is about to meet his match. Nan Wu rolled his eyes at him. "Can't you just think positively?" Shi Yuan gloated. Hu Yang is always clinging to Su Mu. If someone comes to snatch Su Mu from him, that arrogant guy will have a taste of being ignored. Just thinking about it makes me happy. At the same time, in order to prevent Hu Yang, a guy who is only concerned with having fun, from calling the wrong name and exposing his identity, Su Qianqian deliberately kept a distance from He Mu and the others and found an open space nearby as a place to rest at night. However, not long after he sat down, Lang Yan came over. Hu Yang's radar was beeping, and he stood up to block Lang Yan. "Why are you here so late at night?" Lang Yan didn't look at him, but looked directly at Su Qianqian behind him and said in a steady voice, "Regarding your slave, there were so many people just now, and I still have something to say." Su Qianqian tilted her head in confusion. "What's the matter?" Lang Yan walked past Hu Yang and sat down next to Su Qianqian. He did not immediately speak, but looked at Hu Yang again and said, "This matter is very serious. If someone else were here." He didn't finish his words, but his meaning was clear. Hu Yang instantly jumped up in anger. "What do you mean? Can I listen to this? Do you know what the relationship between her and I is?" "She is my It's okay, just continue talking." Su Qianqian covered Hu Yang's mouth and said to Lang Yan expressionlessly. Lang Yan looked at the man who had been furious just a second ago, but suddenly became obedient and happy after his mouth was covered. His eyes were weird for 2 seconds, then he looked away calmly, looked at Su Qianqian and slowly said, "That guy. He is not your slave, right?" Su Qianqian raised her eyebrows. "Why do you think so?" Lang Yan curled his lips and said, "I have lived for so many years, and I have never seen a slave who is a 5th-level orc." "Level 5 orc?" In Shua turned into a 5th-level orc. Su Qianqian was stunned for a second, then said with a strange expression, "Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist." "Really?" Lang Yan stared at Su Qianqian's face with an increasingly interested look. "Maybe I am too narrow-minded. However, I am curious about one thing, my friend. When did you come to the City of Beasts? Do you know a female who looks a lot like you? I have been looking for her." Su Qianqian. What does this mean? What looks like her? She looks like a man now. How could she look like her old self? Hu Yang pulled Su Qianqian's hand away and shouted at Lang Yan, "What do you mean by similar or not? I think you are just looking for trouble. Get out of here. We need to rest. Don't disturb us." This time Su Qianqian did not stop Hu Yang from speaking. She really wanted Lang Yan to leave quickly. She always had a feeling that Lang Yan was trying to find out something. If he found out that she was Su Qianqian, she would be in trouble. Lang Yan didn't even glance at Hu Yang. Still staring at Su Qianqian steadily, his gray-blue eyes were very deep and heavy, like the calm sea surface in the dark night, so deep and terrifying. Su Qianqian gradually felt uncomfortable being stared at, and she yawned quickly, saying, "What are you talking about? I am from the Civet Cat clan, and my mother didn't give me any brothers or sisters, so how could there be a female who looks like me? Your name is Lang Yan, right? If you have nothing else to do, go back and rest. I have to get up early tomorrow to go back to Wanshou City." Lang Yan could only look away. "Sorry to bother you." After saying this, he got up and left. As soon as he left, Hu Yang came over impatiently and asked gloomily, "Who is he? Did you know him before? Why did he look for you?" Su Qianqian nodded helplessly. "I've seen it before." Seeing Hu Yang's undisguised gloomy expression, Su Qianqian had no choice but to grab Hu Yang's ear and whispered, "Don't attack them. I used to live in their tribe for a while. Lang Yan is a good man. He saved my life. But their tribe..." At this point, Su Qianqian couldn't help but trail off. After a moment of silence, she continued, "In short, their tribe knows that I have superpowers, so you must not let it slip and expose my identity." Hu Yang heard this. His face darkened instantly. It was obvious that he also understood what a female with special powers meant to a tribe. He stretched out his big hand and hugged Su Qianqian tightly in his arms. His voice was different from usual, serious and solemn. "Qianqian, don't worry, I will never let him snatch you away." Su Qianqian's face was pressed against his strong and warm chest. She did not refuse as usual, and could not help but look up and ask, "Aren't you curious about why I have superpowers?" "What are you curious about?" Hu Yang looked down at her with a puzzled look. Su Qianqian was surprised. "Don't you know about the saint female?" "I know." Hu Yang nodded honestly, his arm still tightly wrapped around Su Qianqian's waist, and said every word seriously. "But I know you are Qianqian. The person I like is Qianqian. I don't care about the saint female, and I don't like you because you are a saint female." Hearing this, Su Qianqian couldn't help but remain silent. She lowered her head and buried it in Hu Yang's arms. The man's strong and warm chest inexplicably made her feel indescribably safe and warm. It seemed that from the very beginning, Hu Yang did not show excessive surprise about her supernatural powers and treated it with a normal heart. She likes this feeling. Just as he was feeling touched, Hu Yang suddenly leaned his head closer, pointed at his thin lips impatiently, and said, "Qianqian, there is no one around now, can we?" Su Qianqian. The feeling of emotion that had just arisen disappeared in an instant. Facing the man's face approaching, Su Qianqian pushed him away ruthlessly. No, I just want a kiss." The man came closer again. "Qianqian, just a kiss, okay?" The next day, at dawn, the group got ready to leave the Forest of Beasts and return to the City of Beasts. However, the journey was not smooth. As soon as they left the area with the carnivorous plants, they were attacked by countless ferocious beasts. Of course, these ferocious beasts are nothing but food for them who possess superpowers. Hu Yang was the first to bear the brunt of the attack and rushed to the front every time. The Shifeng people had no chance to fight back at all. The ferocious beasts blocking the road all lay under Hu Yang's claws, without any ability to resist. Shi Yuan and his companions went from being amazed at the beginning to being completely numb later on. Hu Yang usually looks nonsensical and sticks to sumo all day long. Unexpectedly, he becomes a completely different person when encountering a ferocious beast. He becomes extremely brave and good at fighting, and his combat power is very fierce and powerful. Those ferocious beasts basically do not survive a minute under his claws. Later, Shi Yuan saw Hu Yang's bloodthirsty look and couldn't help but feel a little frightened. Fortunately, he didn't offend the white tiger orc, otherwise he would die at his hands one day. However, every time Su Qianqian stepped forward, the white tiger beast man, who was bloodthirsty and murderous the previous second, turned around and looked at her, and then turned into a warm and clingy big dog and pounced on her.
Qian.
Sumo, do you think I'm awesome? The big dog licked the blood on his paws, wagging his tail happily, looking like he was begging for praise. Su Qianqian silently stuffed the murderer's body into the storage ring, while giving him a thumbs up without hesitation. Awesome. Very awesome. She finished speaking. There was a loud noise from Lang Yan's side. Turning around, she saw that a huge, ferocious beast was knocked down by Lang Yan, and the ground shook twice. When Shi Yuan saw this, he immediately shouted, "Wow, Lang Yan, you are not bad. This is a third-level beast, and you hit it with just one claw." Lang Yan stood there expressionlessly, silently shaking off the blood from his claws. The third-level ferocious beast, which was bigger than a brown bear, lay quietly at his feet. Shi Yuan's exaggerated shouting had no effect on him at all, but the moment Su Qianqian looked over, the usually taciturn Lang Yan spoke like a peacock spreading its feathers. "It's not bad. Although this guy is a third-level beast, he's easy to deal with." Shi Yuanya imitated Su Qianqian and gave a thumbs up. "Great, you are really great." But Lang Yan didn't even look at him. Instead, he turned to ask Su Qianqian, "You have the ability to store things. Can you help me keep this beast?" Su Qianqian nodded. Of course, she could help with this small favor. She walked forward and waved her hand, and the beast, which was as big as a brown bear, entered the storage ring. "I'll return it to you when we get back to the City of Beasts."
Nojeri.
Lang Yan curled his lips, his eyes sliding across Su Qianqian's smooth and slender fingers intentionally or unintentionally. "I see that your space is very large. It should be easy to fit a third-level beast." "Haha, you read too kind." Su Qianqian laughed dryly and calmly put her hands behind her back to avoid Lang Yan's scrutiny. "My storage ability is only a little bit better than that of ordinary people. I can't store a lot of things. Ever since Yin Shua took her storage ring away by some unknown method last time, Su Qianqian has had a sense of crisis. Even though the storage ring has recognized her as its master through her blood, there are always some unknown secret techniques in this beast world that can take away her storage ring, so she simply used the function of the magic cloak to make the storage ring invisible. So, to outsiders, her fingers looked bare, and she was not wearing anything. But some of her habits of storing and retrieving things could not be changed in a short time. She would touch her fingers from time to time. This was the same habit she had when she was in the Grey Wolf tribe, when she always touched the storage bag around her waist. Lang Yan appears to be taciturn on the surface, but he is actually a very thoughtful person. These small details that ordinary people don't pay much attention to can easily arouse his suspicion. Lang Yan, who was chatting with Su Qianqian in a casual manner, and couldn't help but scratching his head with a puzzled look on his face. Shi Yuan walked over, patted his shoulder, and whispered, "I never thought that your Grey Wolf tribe actually had an orc as powerful as Lang Yan." "It's okay." He Mu sighed helplessly. In the past, Lang Yan would not easily reveal his strength in front of outsiders. "I don't know what happened today." He kept showing off his strength in front of Su Mu. Shi Yuan chuckled and said meaningfully, "You don't know this. It's because my brother Sumo is so charming. He is kind and loyal, and all the orcs who have seen him are impressed by him." "That's not the case." He Mu immediately retorted. "Lang Yan has a female he likes." Shi Yuan immediately asked curiously, "Who is it?" He Mu closed his mouth, as if he was worried about something, and suddenly stopped talking. "Hey, why don't you say anything? Who is the female he likes?" Shi Yuan asked for a long time without any result, and couldn't help but guess. "Is the female he likes very ugly, so you are embarrassed to say it?" "No way." He Mu couldn't help but whispered in defense. She is very beautiful. You are not allowed to say she is ugly." "Hey, why do you look like that? Do you like that female too?" "Shut up." "Oh, I was right, you just like that female, haha." He Mu and Shi Yuan were still bickering, while Hu Yang on the other side was looking at Lang Yan, who was talking to Su Qianqian, and the jealousy in his heart was almost boiling over. He kicked hard at the second-level beast next to him. The beast looked very much like a wolf, and its pointed ears trembled in pain, making a low whining sound. Su Qianqian turned around and looked over. "Hu Yang, don't bully it." That second-level ferocious beast was a rare gentle beast in the forest of beasts. She wanted to keep it, and raise it to see if she could train it into her own thug. I didn't bully it. Hu Yang saw Su Qianqian turned around to ask him a question, and a harmless smile instantly appeared on his face. I think it's a little disobedient. It's just a beast that knows nothing, but it's always daydreaming about things it shouldn't think about. What are you talking about? Su Qianqian walked over helplessly and tapped his head with her fingers. Stop playing around. Let's hurry up, or we won't be able to get out of the forest of beasts before dark.
Yeah.
Hu Yang nodded quickly. Whatever you say is what it is. He looked obedient and well-behaved, but when he caught a glimpse of Lang Yan's gaze, he immediately took advantage of Su Qianqian's back turn to give him a provocative and complacent look. The two eyes met in midair, creating extremely intense sparks and a strong smell of gunpowder. Shi Yuan held Nanwu's shoulders and laughed until he was shaking. He lowered his voice and said, "Haha, see, I said Hu Yang had met his match. This kid has started to play dirty tricks. Nanwu. .. The group hurried and finally returned to Wanshou City before dark. As soon as she arrived at the City of Beasts, Su Qianqian rushed to find Shanmao and the others. She had been out of the city for 2 days, and she didn't know what happened to the slaves. Were they bullied? However, on the street leading to the slave area in the West City, a group of orcs were marching in a mighty procession, completely blocking the street leading to the slave area. They surrounded a red fox girl in the center like stars surrounding the moon. Why is it called Red Fox Girl? Because Su Qianqian, who was standing outside the street, saw at a glance that the girl surrounded by the crowd was not like the females in the beast world, who could only maintain their human form. Instead, she maintained her human form with a pair of red fox ears on her head and even a fluffy and soft fox tail behind her. It looks like half human, half beast. Su Qianqian was shocked for 2 seconds. It was the first time she saw a female orc who could appear in a half-human, half-beast form.
But
didn't Jillian tell her before that only male beast men can transform into a half-human, half-beast form, and female beast men can only maintain their human form after birth? She took a closer look at the girl in the crowd. Her figure was not as strong and fat as the traditional females in the beast world, but rather slender, which was rare. But within this fragility, there is a faint sense of sickness. The red fox girl seemed to sense her gaze and suddenly turned her face, which was too pale and weak. After seeing Su Qianqian's handsome face, a blush appeared on his originally pale face. She smiled at Su Qianqian, her slender arm resting on the hand of the orc who was on standby beside her. Her every move was as delicate as a willow in the wind, so charming. But the male orcs surrounding her didn't dare to look at her for too long. They all lowered their heads, looking respectful and deferential. Looking at the red fox girl walking away with a group of orc warriors, Su Qianqian couldn't help but frown slightly. At this time, Lang Yan came over, as if he saw through Su Qianqian's doubts, and said, "She is the saint of the Red Fox clan. She was invited by the 4 city lords to come to the City of Beasts and is now parading in the streets." Su Qianqian turned to look at him in surprise. The saintess of the Red Fox clan? It's fine that there are priests in this beast world, but why is there also something like a saint? Lang Yan nodded. I heard that the saint of the Red Fox clan was born with a strange phenomenon. After she grew up, she still remained half human and half beast. She was able to communicate with the legendary beast god, so she was hailed as a saint. She usually only appears on important occasions. I see. Su Qianqian nodded thoughtfully. Why did the 4 city lords invite the Red Fox clan's saint to Wanshou City? Did something big happen in Wanshou City?
who cares about that saint?
Hu Yang came over carelessly, but quietly pushed Lang Yan aside, occupied the seat next to Su Qianqian, and said coquettishly, "Qian. Su Mu, let's find a place to stay tonight. I'm so tired." Lang Yan was not angry even though he was pushed away. He just looked at Su Qianqian, who was lost in thought, his gray-blue eyes slightly narrowed. Su Qianqian was completely unaware. She listened to Hu Yang's coquettish words and said, "I have several slaves still in the slave area. I'm going to find them now. If you don't have a place to live, go over there and find a female named Sia and ask her to arrange a place for you." When Hu Yang heard this, he shook his head repeatedly. "No, I want to go with you. I won't rest anymore. Soon as he finished speaking, Lang Yen beside him added, I also want to go to the slave area to take a look. After that, he handed the animal skin bag containing animal crystals to Hey Mu, who was standing beside him, and said, Hey Mu, go find Shiyu and buy a cave to stay in temporarily. Have a good rest for a few days, and don't come to me again. It was obvious from these words that he was determined to follow Su Qianqian. Hey Mu had no choice but to take the animal skin bag. He knew that once Lang Yen made a decision, even 10 oxen could not change it. So he did not say anything to persuade him, but silently took the animal skin bag and left. Hu Yang next to him was not happy, and immediately stood in front of Su Qianqian and said, Why are you following Su Mu? You've only known her for less than 2 days. Lang Yen shrugged indifferently. My friend from the White Tiger Beast tribe, I think you didn't understand what I meant. I don't want to follow your friend Su Mu, but I want to go to the slave area to look for the slave I once saved. At the end of his speech, he seemed to deliberately emphasize the words, the slave who was rescued. Su Qianqian really looked at him and said with surprise, You mean, my slave might appear in the slave area? I'm not sure. Lang Yen shook his head, but I can guess that he has probably returned to Wanshou City. If he is a slave, he should go to the slave area to find his kind. Su Qianqian was immediately disappointed when she heard this. It turned out to be just a guess. Forget it. Let's ignore him and go find Bobcat and the others first. She was about to leave when she thought of Shifeng and the others, so she turned around, walked up to them, and asked, Shifeng, what are your plans for the future? Shifeng shook his head. Originally, they were going back to the City of Beasts to complete the bounty mission. But since the man-eating plan had already been taken by Su Qianqian, they really had nothing to do afterwards, so he said, I don't have any plans for now. Let's find a place to stay and rest for 2 days first. Oh, Su Qianqian thought about it. Why not take this opportunity to ask Shifeng and the others if they are willing to follow her to the forest of 10,000 beasts to establish a new tribe? She was about to speak when Shi Yuan beside her suddenly lowered his voice and said, On my way back, just now, I heard an orc say that the 4 city lords are offering a reward for a strong man with wood-type supernatural powers. Whoever captures him will receive 100 beast crystals. They are second-level beast crystals. As soon as these words came out, the people from the 10 directions instantly became alert. Really? It must be true. Shi Yuan nodded. This bounty mission was issued by the 4 main cities at the same time. It is engraved under the obelisk. I have never seen the 4 main cities issue a mission at the same time. I guess this strong man with wood-type abilities must have offended the 4 city lords at the same time. Haha, I don't know which unlucky guy it is. How pitiful. Su Qianqian. Does the bounty say what the wood-type supernatural power expert looks like? Nan Wu also became interested. From their description, he's probably a very strong male with superpowers. Shi Yuan said, then turned to look at Su Qianqian and asked, Su Mu, why don't you take on this mission with us and find this wood-type superpower? You're so powerful, and that wood-type superpower is definitely not you. As opponent. After 2 seconds of silence, Su Qianqian decisively waved her hand. No, you guys go ahead, I have other things to do. Okay then. Shi Yuan sighed in disappointment and could only drag Nan Wu and Shifeng to find the obelisk engraved with the bounty mission. As soon as they left, Su Qianqian couldn't help but grit her teeth secretly. Damn it. In order to capture her, the 4 city lords actually offered a huge reward of 100 second-level beast crystals. How abominable. How can this not make people excited? If all of these 100 second-level beast crystals were put up for sale on the plane system, I wonder how many star coins they would fetch. How about she pretend to be caught, take the reward money, and then escape? Su Qianqian couldn't help but have a sudden thought. Just as he was thinking about it, Lang Yen next to him suddenly spoke. Wood-related supernatural power. Su Qianqian paused for a moment and suddenly realized that Lang Yen knew that she had wood-related abilities. If she revealed that she had wood-related abilities, Lang Yen, who was already suspicious of her, would probably be able to see through her identity in a second. Forget it. After giving up the idea, Su Qianqian prepared to go to the slave area to find Lynx and the others. She had left a lot of ice cubes, and they should have been sold out in the past 2 days. With those daily necessities and beast crystals, the slaves' lives should have improved in the past 2 days. I believe they are happily waiting for her to come back. Su Qianqian quickened her pace as she thought about it. However, when she arrived at the slave area, she did not see the scene she had imagined. The entire slave area was silent and cold, with almost no slaves in sight. What happened? Su Qianqian was surprised and hurried to look under the big locust tree for shade, but there was still no sign of a slave. What happened during the 2 days she was away? What about the slaves? At this time, Huyang suddenly pulled Su Qianqian, pointed at a few pine trees not far away, and said in a low voice, "Qianqian, there seems to be something hidden there?" Su Qianqian subconsciously turned her head to look. The animal hide fence built with several pine poles had been hit by something and was beginning to shake. There was indeed a hidden corner of an animal hide garment between 2 of the pine poles. Su Qianqian frowned and walked over quickly. At this moment, the shaky pine pole suddenly fell down and pressed towards her. "Be careful." Lang Yan, who was standing next to him, was quick-witted and grabbed Su Qianqian's wrist, pulling her away from where she was. The tip of her nose hit the man's strong chest hard, and Su Qianqian was in so much pain that tears were about to come out. Then, she heard the man's low and nervous voice above her head. "Are you okay?" "No, it's okay, it's okay." After hearing Lang Yan's voice clearly, Su Qianqian quickly blinked twice to force back the tears and took a step back to distance herself from the man. "I'm glad you're okay." Lang Yan heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing that. He could see that Su Qianqian was anxious to distance herself from him, and a hint of disappointment flashed across her gray-blue eyes. This hint of depression reflected in Su Qianqian's eyes, and she felt her heart inexplicably tighten for a second. However, the next second, Huyang squeezed in again, completely ignoring Lang Yan's stiff face, and pulled Su Qianqian up and down to look her up, saying, "It was too dangerous just now. Let me do it next time. I'm tough and can handle it." Hu Yang's joke made the feeling that had just surged in Su Qianqian's heart fade a little. She smiled and shook her head, then looked inside along the pine pole that had fallen to the ground. The corner of the clothes hidden behind the pine pole had disappeared. She frowned slightly, then stretched out her hand and tore open the animal skin fence in front of her, saying sternly, "Don't hide, I see you." As soon as the voice fell, the little figure hiding in the gap between the 2 pine poles trembled and quickly took out the bone blade and pointed it at Su Qianqian and the others, closing his eyes tightly, and said fearfully, "You, don't come over." I'm not afraid of you." Su Qianqian saw the person in front of her clearly and was shocked. "Xiaojiu? Why are you hiding here? Where are Shan Mao and the others?" Hearing the word, mountain cat, Xiaojiu, who had closed his eyes in fear, finally opened them. After seeing Su Qianqian clearly, he immediately cried and rushed over. "Wow. My brothers have all been captured. Whoa. Who took them away?" Su Qianqian asked hurriedly. "They were captured by the orc warriors sent by the 4 city lords." Another voice came from behind. Su Qianqian turned around and saw that the people from Shifeng who had gone to see the bounty mission had come over. They said in a serious tone, "The 4 city lords of Wanshou City have invited the saint of the Red Fox clan to hold a rain-praying ceremony in a few days. They need the blood of living people. All the slaves have been captured and will be killed and bled at the ceremony." "What did you say?"
Su Qianqian looked incredulous.
"These 4 city lords are simply inhuman." Shi Yuan cursed angrily. "When we arrived at the obelisk just now, we saw that all the slaves in the 4 main cities were captured and locked up. Just now, the saint of the Red Fox clan led those orc warriors to parade in the streets just to demonstrate. Although those who were captured were all slaves, this act still caused a lot of panic and dissatisfaction in the City of Beasts, so the Red Fox Saint personally led the orc warriors to parade through the streets. On the surface, it was to appease the frightened orc people, but in reality it was just for demonstration. After all, the Red Fox Saint claimed to be the Beast God's messenger and could communicate with the Beast God. When she said that the blood sacrifice was to pray for rain from the beast god, the beast men in the beast city, no matter how scared they were, and dared not disobey. But Su Qianqian, who had lived in the modern world for more than 20 years, did not believe that praying for rain required human sacrifice. She said in a deep voice, "When will the sacrificial ceremony begin?" Shifeng said, 3 days later. Great, 3 days left. Su Qianqian frowned, and a look of determination flashed to her eyes. She had to rescue Shan Mao and the others within 3 days and lead them away from Wanshou City, a place where people were eaten without leaving any bones. After thinking about it, she stopped hiding her feelings and asked Shifeng directly, "Shifeng, I want to rescue the slaves of Shan Mao and lead them to leave the city of 10,000 beasts and settle in the forest of 10,000 beasts. Are you willing to go with me?" Shifeng was stunned when he heard this, with a look of disbelief on his face. You are alone?" "She is not alone, there is me too." Hu Yong stepped forward and said. Lang Yan didn't say anything, but he stood up and expressed his attitude. Seeing that 2 rare strong men, Lang Yan and Hu Yong, were standing on Su Qianqian's side, Shifeng gradually put away the surprise on his face, smiled bitterly and said, "Su Mu, I know that you are a man who can do great things, but our strength is far inferior to that of Lang Yan and Hu Yong. If you don't mind us being a burden to you, you can take us with you."
Yes.
Shi Yuanya stood up and said in a sonorous voice, "Ever since the great city lord of Wanshou City went into seclusion, the 4 city lords have been doing things more and more outrageously. They are selfish and only care about expanding their own power and making a lot of money. They don't consider the opinions of the beast men at all. I don't want to stay in Wanshou City anymore, Sumo. I want to follow you." Su Qianqian looked at the 2 people who supported her so much with sparkling eyes and nodded vigorously. "Very good. From now on you will be the new members of my Sumo tribe." However, Nan was said weakly, "That. Sumo, I also want to follow you, but I think we should think about saving the slaves later. We can't save them with our own strength." Shifeng did not stop Nan Wu from throwing cold water on him this time. Instead, he nodded in agreement. "That's right, Su Mu. The 4 city lords of Wanshou City are the ones who took the slaves away. If we want to rescue those slaves, we must fight against the 4 city lords. But with our current strength, we are no match for them."
Shi Yuan beside him also added, "Actually,
the 4 city lords are not scary. What's scary is the great witches behind them. Those great witches have lived for hundreds of years, and each of them is a 7th level orc. Picking one of them alone can beat us, without any resistance." Shi Yuan's words hit the nail on the head, and Su Qianqian couldn't help but frown.
Indeed, she thought less.
The 4 city lords were not scary, and she could fight against 1 or 2 of them with her own strength, but the great wizard behind them was someone she could not contend with at all. She was able to eavesdrop on the 4 city lords and escape because the great wizard did not take action. If the great wizards behind the 4 city lords had taken action, there would have been no way to turn this around. "Actually, I think we can wait until the city lord comes out of retreat before making plans for this matter," Nan Wu added. "I've heard before that the sacrificial ceremony to be held in 3 days is not only to pray for rain for the Red Fox Saint, but also to welcome the city lord out of retreat. Then we can go and ask the city lord for help. He will definitely not agree to human sacrifice and release those slaves." "Not right." This time, before Su Qianqian could speak, Shi Yuan shook his head and said, "According to the prediction of the chief priest of Wanshou City, the city lord should not come out of seclusion until a month later. He will most likely not show up at the sacrificial ceremony 3 days later." Nan Wu couldn't help biting his lip and said, "What if?" And the high priest's prophecy only said that the city lord would appear at this year's sacrificial meeting, but didn't specify the time. Since the sacrificial meeting was moved up a month, maybe the city lord will also come out early. I think it's not very reliable." Su Qianqian shook her head helplessly. The city lord, who is like a god in everyone's mouth, has never shown up until now and is particularly mysterious. She guessed that such a big shot had already died. Novels about cultivating immortals? Those great figures who practice in seclusion, either because their lifespan is coming to an end or because they are haunted by inner demons, are unable to break through. Day after day, year after year, they suffer in hardship, and when they are finally discovered, only a corpse is left. Su Qianqian thought about it and couldn't help stroking the token in her hand. The sharp-horned giant python carved on it looked mighty and ferocious, but there was also a hazy sense of mystery. Therefore, instead of trusting the city lord who has never shown up, it is better to trust yourself. At this time, Xiaojie suddenly came over and gently tugged at the corner of Su Qianqian's clothes. Seeing that she seemed to have something to say, Su Qianqian bent down considerately. Xiaojie, who was over 5 years old, was not even as tall as Su Qianqian's waist. She tiptoed with great effort, leaned close to Su Qianqian's ear, and whispered, "Brother Sumo, we in the Wu snake tribe can sense the existence and breath of orcs of the same tribe. Although I only have a little Wu snake blood in my body, I can sense that the city lord is still alive. Although his breath is sometimes strong and sometimes weak, in the past few days, I can clearly sense that his breath has increased." Su Qianqian couldn't help but ask, "Then can you sense where the city lord is in seclusion?" Shook his head apologetically. "I don't know. There is too little Wu snake blood in my body. I can only sense his breath weakly. It's okay. Xiaojie is already very good." Su Qianqian reached out and touched her head, comforting her. "When those orc warriors came to catch you, you learned to hide here to avoid them, which is already very good. There are many animal skin fences made of pine poles here, and it is inevitable to make mistakes at a glance." Xiaojie escaped the pursuit of the orc warriors because he hid in the gaps between the pine poles. When talking about this, Xiaojie's eyes were instantly filled with tears, and she sobbed, "Brother Shanmao asked me to hide here. This place is very small, and only my body can fit in. Brother Shanmao asked me to hide here and wait for you to come back. Brother Sumo, I miss Brother Shanmao and the others so much. Whoa, don't cry, don't cry." Su Qianqian hurriedly comforted, "Xiaojie, stay here with Brother Shifeng and the others. I will definitely find a way to rescue Shanmao and the others." After that, she stood up and said to Shifeng and the others, "Shifeng, you guys stay here. I'll go find out where the slaves are being held, and then we'll come up with another solution." Shifeng and the others nodded, but Huyang next to them disagreed and quickly said, "How can you go alone? I want to go too." Su Qianqian shook her head and refused. "No, Huyang, you and the others wait for me here. I can go alone. She has an invisibility cloak that can help her avoid being hunted by orcs. If she brings someone else with her, it will be difficult to hide her figure." "No, no, no." Huyang grabbed her hand and acted like a spoiled child. "I'm even more worried if you go alone, and I'm a 4th-level orc. Apart from the 4 city lords and those great witches in Wanshou City, almost no one can match me. Just take me with you, please." Su Qianqian rubbed her forehead helplessly. This guy Huyang was so helpless when he started to act like a spoiled child. At this time, Lang Yen beside him also said, "Let him go with you. If you encounter danger, he can help you delay time and escape." Hearing Lang Yen speak up for Huyang, Su Qianqian was stunned for a moment and subconsciously turned to ask him, "What about you?" "I have other things to do." Lang Yen curled the corners of his lips and suddenly cast his gaze towards a certain place on the main street of West City. "Okay then." Su Qianqian knew that Lang Yen was leaving, and she was relieved. It was good for him to leave, so she didn't have to worry about her identity being discovered. After Lang Yen left, Su Qianqian immediately pulled Huyang to the other side and asked again, "Do you really want to follow me?"
"Yeah." Huyang nodded hurriedly.
Su Qianqian said, "If you want to come with me, you must stay in my space for a while first." "Space?" Huyang's eyes lit up. "That's right." Su Qianqian nodded mysteriously. "My space can accommodate people. You go in and stay there. I'll let you out when the time comes. Is that okay?" Huyang seems to be a nonsensical guy, but he is actually not that easy to fool. If he wants to follow me, he will be like a sticky candy that I can't get rid of. Instead of that, I might as well let him go into the pet space and stay there obediently. Anyway, the pet space belongs to him. Once he enters it, it is up to him whether he can come out or not. Okay. Hu Yang, who was completely confused, nodded repeatedly. As long as I can follow Qian, I will go wherever you let me go. Looking at the little tiger that was lured into the trap, Su Qian narrowed her eyes in satisfaction, then stretched out her hand, put it on Hu Yang's forehead, and said, "Don't move. Collect." As the word shu came out, the tall and strong Hu Yang disappeared in front of him. Su Qian opened the space that came with the plane system, and when she saw the humanoid pet in the first grid, she couldn't suppress the smile on her face. She reached out and clicked, and the system prompt sounded in her ears. Ding. Pet Huyang loyalty. 91, so high? Su Qian couldn't help but be stunned. Huyang had not been with her for a long time, but his loyalty was actually higher than that of Yin Shua. After being surprised, Su Qian quickly calmed down and went to the residential area of the Lord of East City. She had been there once and had some experience, so she wanted to see if she could find where the slaves were being held. She went there wearing an invisibility cloak, so no orc could see her along the way. Su Qian also entered the cave of the Lord of East City unhindered. Compared to the last time, the guards this time are tighter, and outside the cave are all third-level orc warriors. Fortunately, there is the invisibility cloak, otherwise she would not be able to get in. But Su Qian went in and looked around, but she couldn't find the East City Lord anywhere. Not only that, there was no trace of the slave orcs either. Su Qian couldn't help but wonder, could it be hidden in another main city? So she went to the West City, North City, and South City respectively, but could not find the place where the slaves were held. Su Qian couldn't help but wonder, where were those slaves being held? She searched almost every place where people could be hidden, but she couldn't find where the slaves were held. If we can't even find where the slaves are being held, there's no point in rescuing them. Su Qian frowned, looking at the orc warriors patrolling back and forth, and suddenly an idea flashed in her mind, and she immediately came up with a solution. She put on the disguise cloak again, transformed into Xiaoju's appearance, and then walked out from behind the big rock with a swagger. The patrolling orc warriors saw her at a glance. It's a slave. Catch her quickly. Orc warriors swarmed in. Was dressed as Xiaoju, deliberately showed a panic expression and screamed in fear. "Duan, come over here." 5-year-old girl with short arms and legs could not escape from the 2-meter-tall orc warriors and was caught in an instant. Although Su Qian's performance was very natural and realistic, some orcs still looked at her suspiciously. Where did this slave come from? Why haven't I seen him before? Never mind, let us take her to see the saint first. So, the group tied Su Qian's wrists with ropes made of animal skins, and then took her to see the saint. Unexpectedly, the Red Fox Saint lived not in the prosperous areas of the 4 main cities, but in a relatively remote cave. There were only 2 or 3 orc warriors guarding there. Su Qian looked around calmly. Could it be that the slaves were kept nearby? Without giving her time to think, the 2 orc warriors grabbed her and took her into the cave. The cave was actually bigger than expected, and there was a long passage inside. After walking out of the passage, Su Qian finally saw the 4 city lords and the Red Fox Saint hiding inside. Several people seemed to be talking about something happy, with joyful expressions on their faces. Only Shiju, the Lord of West City, sat aside with a gloomy look on his face and did not participate in their discussion. Seeing the orc warriors bringing Su Qian in, the 3 city lords stopped smiling. What's the matter? Why didn't you come in earlier? A notification? The 2 orc warriors lowered their heads and explained, "We found a lone slave while patrolling outside, so we thought of bringing him here quickly." A lone slave? The Red Fox Saint heard this and immediately stepped forward to check. How could there be a lone slave? Haven't you arrested and detained all the slaves in the City of Beasts? Her voice was full of stern reproach, scaring the 2 orc warriors nearby to kneel down in panic, and said, "We don't know either." She just appeared out of thin air. She must have been missed before. Su Qian pretended to be timid and raised her head, meeting the gaze of the Red Fox Saint. It was completely different from the weak and frail figure she had seen during the day. At this moment, the saint's face was full of strength and anger. "Humph. What do you mean by appearing out of thin air? I think you guys are not doing your job well. You still want to shirk responsibility, and you will each be punished with 5 lashes when you leave. The 2 orc warriors shrank back and nodded quickly, as if they were more afraid of the Red Fox Saint in front of them than the 4 city lords. You guys go out. Don't come in again without my permission. The saint gave the order, and the 2 orc warriors quickly got up and left. The 2 orc warriors left. The Red Fox Saint's gaze fell on Su Qianqian again. Su Qianqian was afraid that she would notice something, so she subconsciously lowered her head. However, she didn't expect that the other party would pinch her chin hard the next second and force her to raise her head. With such great strength, she doesn't look like the sickly and weak girl she appeared during the day. The Red Fox Saint raised her chin slightly and looked at Su Qianqian with a condescending look and said with satisfaction, "Yes, the blood of a little girl of this age is the purest and most suitable for sacrifice." After saying that, she pushed Su Qianqian's face away and rubbed her hand that had pinched Su Qianqian's face on the animal hide with disgust. The Lord of East City came over and took a look at Su Qianqian, then said, "It's good, but you've lost a little weight, so you can't bleed much." The Red Fox Saint glanced at him and couldn't help but sneer. "Oh, you also know that? When that master was here, there were no slaves in the City of Beasts. You 4 city lords have only taken over for a few years, and the City of Beasts has been governed into this state. It's really ridiculous." The Lord of East City choked and was speechless for a moment. Seeing him choking, the Red Fox Saint looked even more disdainful. "If it weren't for that lord coming out of retreat early, I wouldn't have come out to help you." The Lord of East City was irritated by the disdainful expression on the face of the Red Fox Saint and finally couldn't help but speak out, but was stopped by the Lord of North City, who came over in time the next second. All right, stop talking. Everyone did all this to let the Lord of the City come out of retreat early. Why bother arguing about such irrelevant things?" Hearing this, Su Qianqian couldn't help but look at a few people in confusion. Didn't they capture the slaves for the purpose of praying for rain as a sacrifice? Why did they involve the city lord now? Could it be that there is something else going on in this matter that she doesn't know? At this time, the Lord of South City came over with a bowl of meat soup and said with a smile, "The Saint Lady is right. This little girl is the most suitable for sacrifice, but she is too thin. I just have a bowl of meat soup here. Let's give it to this little girl." Hearing the voice, Su Qianqian subconsciously looked towards the Lord of Nancheng. His face, which pretended to be friendly, was full of scheming and calculation. The Lord of North City next to him seemed to realize something and kept saying, "Yes, yes, yes," while helping to push the bowl of meat soup in front of Su Qianqian. "Little girl, you probably haven't tasted what meat soup tastes like in your entire life. This bowl of meat soup is a reward for you." Su Qianqian glanced at the broth in front of her and felt something was wrong. This bowl of broth seemed to be specially prepared. It had been cold for a long time, and there was a layer of oil on the broth, which looked disgusting. Seeing that Su Qianqian didn't move, the Lord of South City suddenly frowned. "Why, you want a drink?" "Humph, you little girl is so shameless." The Lord of North City glanced at her impatiently and said directly to the Lord of South City, "Give her the drink." Seeing this, Su Qianqian calmly touched the storage ring. At this moment, the West City Lord, who had been silent all this time, finally couldn't help but speak up. "Enough. Do you still have any heart? She is just a 5 or 6-year-old beast cub. Why do you have to force her like this? Why, didn't the Lord of West City say that he would no longer care about our affairs?" The Lord of South City glanced at him coldly. Shi Ju glanced at the broth, gritted his teeth, took a deep breath and said calmly, "If you don't want the matter to be exposed, don't go too far." As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of the 3 city lords instantly turned gloomy. They all glanced at the Red Fox Saint who was still beside them, and then exchanged glances before putting the broth away. The Red Fox Saint didn't seem to notice the veiled communication between the 3 city lords. She waved her hand indifferently and said, "That's fine. If she doesn't want to eat, forget it. I'm optimistic about this little girl. Her blood can't tolerate any dirt. It's just right for her not to eat. You guys should quickly lock her up." The 3 city lords said yes in succession, and then sent 2 orc warriors in to take Su Qianqian to another passage in the cave. It turns out that slaves were really imprisoned in here. A gleam of light flashed in Su Qianqian's eyes, and she silently followed the orc warrior into the passage. However, just as she stepped into the passage, she suddenly heard the South City Lord's extremely low voice. "Time is running out. Send someone to boil a few more pots of broth for the slaves. Make sure every one of them." The last few words were too far away, and Su Qianqian couldn't hear them clearly. But from this we can see that there was indeed something wrong with that bowl of broth. Except for the West City Lord, who has a little conscience, it is impossible for these 3 lords to be so kind as to make broth for the slaves. There must be something wrong with this broth. The passage was pitch black and visibility was very low. The passage went all the way down, and it became narrower and narrower as it went down. The 2 orc warriors walked very slowly, and it took them about 10 minutes to reach the place where the slaves were actually held. Su Qianqian looked around subconsciously. This cave where the slaves were imprisoned was built underground. No wonder she couldn't find it. The light in the cave was still very low. There were a few torches hanging on the stone wall next to it, and one could barely see the surrounding environment. The slaves were imprisoned in this narrow underground cave, which was pitch black. But without exception, their faces were extremely pale, and they leaned against the wall very weakly. "Stay inside, and don't try to escape." The 2 orc warriors pushed Su Qianqian into the pile of slaves and turned away. As soon as they left, the weak slaves gathered around them, trying to hold on. "How did you get caught?" "Xiaojiu." Shan Mao rushed over impatiently, his weak voice full of panic. "Didn't I tell you to hide there? Why did you run out?" Su Qianqian looked at the mountain cat with an extremely pale face, couldn't help but sigh, and then turned back into Su Mu's appearance.
"Sumu?"
Everyone almost shouted in disbelief at the same time. "Why is it you?" "I'm here to save you," Su Qianqian said, and couldn't help but frowned. "What's wrong with you? You look like you're seriously ill?" The orc slaves shook their heads in confusion. "We don't know either." Su Qianqian simply grabbed the mountain cat's wrist, and a trace of wood-type power flowed into his body along his weak pulse. Almost in the next second, Su Qianqian's expression changed. She looked at everyone's weak faces and asked in a deep voice, "Did you eat anything strange during the days you were locked up?" Several people were stunned when they heard this. "What is this strange thing?" Shan Mao reacted quickly and immediately understood what Su Qianqian wanted to ask and quickly said, "They sent us a pot of broth every day. After eating it, we inexplicably became like this." Several slaves also reacted and said, "Yes, yes, yes, these city lords have suddenly become so kind that they actually send us slaves meat soup every day. Yes, yes. I guess he wants us to have a good meal before we die." "Really?" Listening to the slaves' sighs, Su Qianqian became more certain of her guess. These city lords did not capture these slaves simply for the so-called rain-praying sacrifice. Su Qianqian glanced at the slaves in the cave who looked clueless, then pulled the mountain cat to a corner and asked in a low voice, "Mountain cat, tell me honestly, do you, the Wuxia clan, need to sacrifice blood for your retreat and cultivation?" Hearing this, Shan Mao's face turned pale, and he looked at Su Qianqian with some fear. "Why? Why do you ask that?" Su Qianqian's face darkened as she said word by word, "There is a trace of toxin in the blood of your bodies. This toxin is probably mixed in the broth, and the amount is very small. After eating it, it will not cause too much damage to the body, but will slowly blend into the blood and lurk." Bobcat heard this. His pale face turned even paler. "How could this happen?" he murmured. "I originally thought they drugged the food to prevent us from escaping, but I didn't expect it to be." Su Qianqian sighed. "The Red Fox Saint captured you under the pretext of praying for rain and offering sacrifices. I guess she wanted to sacrifice you to the city lord. The snake tribe does have a special cultivation method, but only pure-blooded snakes can practice it." After struggling for a while, the mountain cat finally spoke slowly. "In the Beast World continent, the snake tribe is very rare, and there are even fewer snakes who know this cultivation method. My mother is a rare snake with pure blood, so she was born with that cultivation method. Unfortunately, she is a female and cannot practice Su Qianqian narrowed her eyes slightly. So, this special cultivation method requires blood sacrifice? This is the secret of the Wu snake clan. I shouldn't have told you, but Shanmao looked at Su Qianqian deeply, then sighed and said, I can't care about anything now. Besides, Xiao Jiao and I have already recognized you as the master, so there is no need to hide these things from you. After saying that, the mountain cat showed a relieved expression and then said, Do you remember that I mentioned to you that the Wuxia clan has the ability to turn into a dragon?
Shuqianqian nodded.
But it takes a huge price to transform from a jiao into a dragon. In addition to having pure blood, one also needs to practice a kind of inherited technique called the snake escape method. The method of shedding snake skin? Su Qianqian showed a surprised expression. That's right. The mountain cat nodded. Only the pure-blooded snakes can inherit the snake-shedding technique. This inheritance method requires blood as a guide, shaping bones and solidifying the body, transforming yin into yang, and resurrecting the soul. Becoming a dragon is an inheritance technique that goes against the laws of heaven and earth, so a large amount of blood is needed to reshape the snake body and resist destiny. Moreover, the more you practice this snake-shedding technique, the more difficult it is to suppress your desire for blood, and you will become more and more bloodthirsty and brutal. After listening to the rest, Su Qianqian gradually understood the so-called snake-shedding method. It felt very similar to the evil magic practiced by the demon cultivators in the immortal cultivation novels. No wonder the four city lords said that the city lord was bloodthirsty and cruel, but they couldn't help but feel fear of him in their words. If the city lord really succeeds in his cultivation and transforms from a snake into the legendary real dragon, then no one in the entire beast world will be his match. Su Qianqian recalled the last time she overheard the conspiracy of the four main cities. She was discovered by Ronggu when she was halfway through eavesdropping, so she didn't overhear the second half. Now it seems that the second half of their plot is nothing more than using the blood of these slaves to lure the city lord out of seclusion and suck all their blood. As for the toxins in the blood of these slaves, they're probably also aimed at the city lord. This move is so insidious and vicious. Su Qianqian lowered her eyes secretly and turned to look at the slaves behind her. Their bodies were now so weak that it was difficult for them to follow her to escape from this devil's cave. We must find a way to remove the poison from their bodies first. There are still 2 days left until the sacrificial ceremony. Su Qianqian pondered for a while, then stood up and said to the slaves, Everyone, I think you have probably guessed the reason for your weakness. I will find an antidote for you, and will also find a way to rescue you. But in the next 2 days, I hope you will not eat anything sent by the city lord. Okay? We will all listen to our master. From now on, we will never eat the food they send us, even if we starve to death. Many slaves nodded and obeyed Su Qianqian's orders almost unswervingly. Su Qianqian explained some things to Lynx again, then put on the invisibility cloak again, and left. Everyone seemed to have gotten used to Su Qianqian's ability to come and go without a trace, so they were not too surprised to see Su Qianqian suddenly disappear. Instead, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, they were worried that Su Qianqian would be locked up and become a sacrifice together, but when they saw that Su Qianqian could escape from here at any time, they were no longer worried at all. At the same time, Su Qianqian had left the underground cave and returned to the cave where the four city lords were. At this moment, the Red Fox Saint and West City Lord Shijue were no longer in the cave. Only 3 city lords remained here. If you ask me, that female from the Red Fox clan is a bit too arrogant. The East City Lord, who had been ridiculed by the Red Fox Saint before, was still holding a grudge in his heart, and was now pacing back and forth in the cave in annoyance. That's right. If I didn't want to use her to appease people, I wouldn't let her stay in Wanzhou City. The Lord of North City also expressed his dissatisfaction with the Red Fox Saint. The Red Fox Saint calls herself the messenger of the beast god, and she is arrogant and looks down on everything. I think she is just an ordinary female. Hey, stop talking. The Lord of South City was still concerned about the Red Fox Saint's identity, so he comforted her. Anyway, after we use her, she will return to the Red Fox clan and continue to be her saint. She won't have any impact on us. Oh, she probably still doesn't know that the Lord Mayor whom she has always admired will die in her hands. The Lord of South City sneered and said, "Well, this is also a punishment for her, who made her disrespect us and speak wildly many times. There are still 2 days before the sacrificial ceremony begins. I think we need to add more medicine to the slaves' food," the Lord of North City said slowly. Hearing this, Su Qianqian raised her eyebrows and quickly opened the plane trading system. She clicked on the product sold by her interstellar friend at the fastest speed in her life and bought a particle micro HD camera. Listening to the three people openly discussing how to use slaves as sacrifices to lure out the city lord, Su Qianqian curled her lips slightly and recorded the entire scene in the cave without making a sound. With this video as evidence, Su Qianqian is no longer in a hurry to rescue Shan Mao and the others. After all, there were too many slaves imprisoned here and all of them were poisoned. If they ran out, they would definitely alert the orc warriors and the 4 city lords guarding outside. No matter how capable she was, she could not protect them. It would be better to turn the tables on them, just like when they were in the Grey Wolf tribe, and use this video evidence to imitate the appearance of the beast god and expose the conspiracy of the 4 city lords and the Red Fox Saint at the sacrificial assembly so that they will completely lose the support of the people and will never be able to take action against those slaves again. Thinking of this, Su Qianqian put the evidence recorded by the particle micro camera into the storage ring. However, although the slaves will not be saved for the time being, the antidote still needs to be found, otherwise they may be in danger of dying before the arrival of the sacrificial ceremony. Su Qianqian glanced at the 3 city lords in the cave, her eyes darkened. She was not sure whether the antidote was with the 3 city lords. If she attacked them now, it might affect the subsequent plans. I suddenly heard footsteps outside. The 3 city lords heard someone coming. They immediately stopped talking. Su Qianqian also looked up and saw that it was Duo Luo, the current young master of Xiqing. At this moment, Duo Luo was leading 2 orc warriors in, carrying a large pot full of broth. Seeing that the person coming was Duo Luo, the 3 city lords smiled again. Duo Luo is a sensible child, not like Shi Ju, the stubborn old man who won't listen to any advice. Duo Luo quickly showed a flattering look on his face and bowed slightly to the 3 city lords. The 3 city lords are too polite. As the candidate young master of West City, I should naturally stand on your side. Shi Ju thinks highly of himself and says that he doesn't want to go along with the crowd. That's just his own idea. It has nothing to do with us in West City. The Lord of South City seemed very satisfied with Duo Luo's flattery and said condescendingly, "You have done a good job. When the 4 lords of the city nominate the young master of West City, I will vote for you." Duo Luo heard this. The smile on his face became more flattering, and even his waist bent more obsequiously. But when Su Qianqian heard this, she frowned slightly. Alternative young master? Duo Luo become the young master since Inshua's death? How come he has become the backup young master now? Without giving Su Qianqian time to think, Duo Luo took 2 orcs and carried the big pot of soup into the passage. Not long after, the 3 of them came out. The Lord of North City glanced at their empty hands and couldn't help but frowned and said, "Why don't you watch them drink it yourself and then come out?" Duo Luo was worried and explained quickly, "I don't know what happened today." When the slaves saw the broth, they didn't rush over like usual. They all sat still and didn't even look at the broth in the pot. How could this happen so suddenly? The Lord of South City cursed upon hearing this and angrily looked at the 2 orc warriors beside him. "Can't you make them drink it? Anyone who dares not drink it will be whipped." All right, don't be so angry." The Lord of North City soothed him. "Those slaves probably know that they are about to die, so they have no appetite. There are still 2 days left, so they can't stay hungry forever. The broth is right next to them, so they will be tempted to eat it." After being comforted, the South City Lord's expression improved a little, but he still cursed in dissatisfaction. "Humph, a bunch of slaves. You dare not eat the meat soup you gave them. You are so shameless. I want to see how long they can hold on without eating. Okay, you can go down. I'll send some food back tomorrow." The Lord of East City waved his hand and let Duo Luo leave. Duo Luo didn't dare to say anything more and quickly led the two orc warriors out of the cave. Su Qianqian looked at Duo Luo's departing back, her eyes darkened, and then she ran after him. After leaving the cave, the bright and scorching sunlight outside was a little dazzling. Duo Luo couldn't help but stretch out his hand to block it and wipe the sweat from his forehead. The Lord of South City has a really bad temper. No wonder Ronggu doesn't like him. Originally, Ronggu was in charge of delivering food to the slaves, but Ronggu found it troublesome and did not want to face the Lord of Nancheng who cursed at him all the time, so he threw the task to him. Of course, he was happy to accept it. Of course, the reason for this was not only because Ronggu saved his life that day, but also because this was an opportunity to show goodwill in front of the three city lords. Thinking of this, a trace of hatred flashed in Duo Luo's eyes. Inshallah, even if you came back alive, so what? He would never give up the position of the young master. He secretly clenched his fists, so hard that his nails almost dug into his palms, as if this was the only way to suppress the hatred in his heart. Then, at this moment, a figure came silently behind him. Before Duo Luo could react, he felt a chill on his neck. He subconsciously looked down and saw a dagger that appeared out of nowhere and was pressed against his neck. Duo Luo was so frightened that he lost his soul, and his legs went limp. Su Qianqian remained invisible, picked up the frightened Duo Luo, and asked in a low voice, "Tell me quickly, where is the antidote you used to poison those slaves?" I don't know," Dora answered tremblingly. "Don't try to fool me," Su Qianqian shouted harshly. The cold blade pressed tightly against Duo Luo's neck blood vessels. "If you don't tell me, I will let you go to see the beast god now, and you can forget about being the young master." Feeling the coldness approaching his neck, Duo Luo finally got scared and said quickly, "It's in the hands of the wizard." "The antidote is in the hands of the wizard." "Which great witch?" Duo Luo swallowed and answered carefully, "The great witch of West City." Su Qianqian frowned when she heard this. How could he be the great witch of West City? Didn't Shijua of West City not participate in the three people's plan to frame the city lord? How come the great wizard under his command holds the antidote for the slaves? Are you lying to me? Su Qianqian pointed the knife at Duo Luo's neck, as if she was going to stab it in the next second. "If you don't tell the truth, I will really let you go to see the beast god right now." "I really didn't lie to you." Duo Luo's expression was like he was about to cry, and his voice was trembling with fear. Some time ago, the Great Witch of West City had an argument with Shi Ju because of Yin Shua's death. The two had been at odds for a long time. He helped the three city lords hide the antidote to express his dissatisfaction with Shi Ju. I really didn't lie to you." Hearing this, Su Qianqian couldn't help but think of the middle-aged orc who mercilessly dropped golden feather arrows from the sky, so she lowered her voice and asked, "Where does he live now?" "In the cave in the main city of West City," Duo Luo answered tremblingly. After getting the exact information, Su Qianqian put away the dagger, knocked Duo Luo unconscious with a punch, and dragged him to hide in the nearby jungle. She punched him with such force that he probably wouldn't wake up for 2 days. After doing all this, Su Qianqian put on a disguised cloak, turned into Duo Luo, walked out of the jungle, and headed straight for the main city of West City. The main city cave in the West City is next to the orcs' residential area. There are basically no orc warriors guarding outside. Su Qianqian glanced at the surrounding situation, and then, despite Duo Luo's face, she entered the main city cave unimpeded. There were only 2 orc slaves in the cave. When they saw Su Qianqian coming in, they quickly knelt on the ground to greet her. Su Qianqian glanced at him, then raised her chin slightly like Duo Luo, and asked in a cold tone, "Where is the city lord?" The 2 slaves looked at each other in surprise, then quickly lowered their heads and replied, "Lord Shijue has something to do, and is out for the time being." Su Qianqian did not miss the surprise that flashed across the 2 slaves' eyes. Could it be that her disguise was exposed? She didn't know much about Duo Luo. She only knew that he was the new young master of West City, and she was not sure about her imitation this time. But if she wanted to get the antidote from the witch, she could only pretend to be Duo Luo temporarily. Su Qianqian quickly calmed down and pretended to be impatient and said, What are you looking at? What are you thinking about? Don't you dare to say it in front of me? The two orc slaves heard his tone. They lowered their heads in fear and explained quickly, "No, nothing. We were just a little surprised to hear you address Master Shijua as you do, Master Duo Luo. You used to call him by his name in private. I see."
Su Yanyan's brows relaxed.
It seemed that Duo Luo was only pretending to be respectful and humble on the surface, and was privately very dissatisfied with the Lord of West City. You don't have to worry about such trivial matters. Just do your job well. Su Qianqian deliberately snorted coldly and calmly cast her eyes towards a small room inside the cave. Where is the Great Wizard? Is he here? The two slaves still shook their heads. The Great Witch went out with Lord Shijua. Easier if both of them were not here. Okay, if you have nothing else to do, you can go down. You are not allowed to come in without my permission. The two slaves murmured in agreement and left the cave. Hearing the sound of the stone door closing, Su Qianqian walked towards the small room inside the cave without delay. This should be where the Great Witch lived. It was very simple, with only a stone bed and a stone table. On the stone bed was a neatly folded animal skin blanket, and on the stone table was a pile of things, including animal skin bags filled with animal crystals, stone cylinders filled with clear water, and some brightly colored beautiful gems. There were so many of these gems, colorful and dazzling, that they almost filled the entire stone table. Su Qianqian looked at it and couldn't help but sigh again. This bird really loves to collect some beautiful stones at home. However, this small room doesn't look like a place where the antidote would be stored. Su Qianqian glanced at it and couldn't help but ponder. Yin Shua had told her before that the Great Wizard of the Silver Eagle family was a 7th-level orc. Although he was powerful, he didn't have the ability to store things, so he shouldn't have the antidote with him. Su Qianqian glanced around the entire small room and finally fixed her eyes on the stone wall next to the stone bed. She thought of the cave where Yin Shua had imprisoned her. Although it seemed that there was only one exit, each cave actually had another exit hidden inside. Could the cave where the Great Witch lives have something similar to this one? Thinking of this, Su Qianqian came to the stone wall and knocked on it with her fingers. The sound was crisp, with a faint hollow echo. Su Qianqian's eyes lit up. There was indeed another cave, hidden inside. But how can we open this stone wall? Su Qianqian observed the stone wall for a few seconds and then gave up. When Yin Shua imprisoned her, she looked at the stone cave every day and observed it every day, but she couldn't see anything. She really didn't know much about these entrances and secret passages, so it would be faster to just use brute force to open the stone wall. After thinking about it, Su Qianqian poured all her strength and supernatural powers into her palms, and then hit the stone wall in front of her heart. The stone wall shook violently twice, and countless pieces of gravel fell down. Seeing that it was effective, Su Qianqian slapped him again. The stone wall shook even more violently, and even cracks appeared on it. Su Qianqian struck out 3 or 4 palms in succession. This time, the entire stone wall could no longer hold on and collapsed with a loud bang. Such a big commotion naturally attracted the attention of people outside, but Su Qianqian was prepared. She tore off her disguise cloak and put on the invisibility cloak again. The figure completely disappeared. Shiju, the Lord of West City, and the Great Witch also hurried in. The 2 slave orcs also came in. Seeing this scene, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. Master Duo Luo, where are you? Shiju frowned and looked around, saying, "Don't shout, someone has been here. Duo Luo must have been taken away by that person." After saying that, "I will turn around," he chased after him, but the Great Witch next to him said coldly, "That man didn't leave." After these words were spoken, not only Shiju was stunned, but Su Qianqian, who had completely disappeared beside him, was so frightened that she dared not move. I don't know when such a powerful orc came to Wanzhou City. The Great Wizard slowly turned his gaze towards Su Qianqian's direction. His golden eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. "Who are you, and why did you trespass into the cave of the Lord of West City?" Hearing these words, Su Qianqian was shocked for a moment, but then she held her breath slightly and stood there motionless. She believed in her invisibility cloak. The moment she put on the cloak, her scent was hidden as well. It was impossible for the witch to discover her by smell. He must have said these things to trick her out. She must not be fooled. Why don't you speak? The great wizard stared at the direction where Su Qianqian was, with a sneer on his face. Or are you afraid to speak like last time? After these words were spoken, Su Qianqian, who had been able to remain calm, became completely panicked. What last time? Could it be referring to the time when he killed In Shoa? At that time, she didn't have an invisibility cloak yet. She only used an invisibility talisman to hide her figure and smell. Could it be that she could be found out with this? Su Qianqian felt frightened, and her back felt cold. The great wizard of the Silver Eagle family is far more powerful than she imagined. The situation was deadlocked for a moment. No matter what the great wizard said, Su Qianqian remained silent, standing there motionless without making any sound. She believed in her invisibility cloak, and even more so believed that the witch said these words just to trick her out. Time passed by bit, and the great wizard, who was originally very confident in his judgment, now frowned, and his eyes, which were fixed in the direction of Su Qianqian, gradually became suspicious. Mu Feng beside him couldn't help but say, "I think you are still too suspicious. How could there be an invisible ability in this beast world? That person left long ago." "I don't think so." The great wizard cast a cold glance at Mu Feng. "Since that man was able to rescue your son right under my nose, this little trick is not surprising for that kind of person." Mu Feng choked and looked away with a guilty look. After a while, he said, "In short, that man has already kidnapped Duo Luo. If we don't catch up with him, Duo Luo will be in danger." Upon hearing this, the great wizard withdrew his gaze and prepared to turn around and leave. However, just as he turned sideways, he suddenly picked up the stone table and smashed it towards Su Qianqian, who was about to breathe a sigh of relief, was startled and dodged to the side before she could react. The stone table weighing hundreds of pounds fell heavily at her feet with a dull thud, causing the stone wall behind her to shake violently. Before Su Qianqian could recover from this sudden change, she turned around and saw the great witch waving his huge palm to attack her. Not good. Su Qianqian no longer had time to stand there and dodge, so she quickly retreated to the side. The great wizard's palm hit the stone wall heavily, and with a loud bang, the entire stone wall collapsed. Su Qianqian was horrified by what she saw. She had experienced the thickness and hardness of this stone wall with her own hands before. She had to use all her strength to slap it several times before she could break the stone wall. However, this great wizard shattered the entire stone wall with just one slap. It showed how terrifying his strength was. However, after this smash, Su Qianqian could already see the antidote hidden in another cave. Just as she was thinking about how to sneak in and steal the antidote, the witch opposite her suddenly raised her lips and whispered like a devil, "Don't hide, I've found you." As soon as he finished speaking, the broken stone table fell towards Su Qianqian again. Su Qianqian was about to dodge, when she suddenly realized that the stone table was not hitting her accurately this time and was only hitting the stone wall on her left. However, the great wizard swung his palm again to attack her right in the face. How did they find her? Su Qianqian hurriedly dodged while looking around anxiously. This cave is very narrow, and the ground is covered with gravel. It is very difficult to hide in it, and you will make noise if you are not careful. Moreover, the exit outside the cave is blocked by a stone door. If you want to escape, you will definitely expose yourself. At this moment, Su Qianqian was so anxious that she was sweating profusely. After she once again tiptoed around the attack of the Great Witch and hid on the other side of the cave, the Great Witch picked up the stone table and smashed it at her again, but her aim was still off. Su Qianqian paused and suddenly realized that the Great Wizard could not see her at all, and he was using this table to test her exact location. She hid her figure, but she did not disappear. There were not many places to hide in this narrow stone cave. If the stone table had not hit her, the witch would have been able to use it to roughly locate her position.
Su Qianqian frowned.
As expected of an old fox who had lived for hundreds of years, this great witch was too smart and not someone who could be easily fooled. However, after confirming that the great wizard really couldn't see her, Su Qianqian also breathed a sigh of relief. In that case, she will use a tactic of making a feint to the east and attacking in the west. She glanced at the tightly closed stone door behind Mu Feng. Then, ignoring the stone table that the witch was throwing at her, she rushed over quickly and slapped the stone door open with one palm. The stone door cracked open, revealing the exit of the cave. "There is someone." Mu Feng was shocked. "He escaped. Go after him." Su Qianqian stood beside the stone gate, without moving. The two slave orcs in charge of guarding the gate looked at the stone door that had inexplicably shattered, and were so scared that they collapsed to the ground, trembling. The great witch frowned, glanced at him, cursed in a low voice, "Useless guy," and flew out to chase him. Mu Feng glanced at the messy cave, sighed helplessly, and then chased out. After seeing the two of them leave completely, Su Qianqian finally breathed a sigh of relief. Her back felt wet and cold, as it turned out that it was already soaked with sweat. I didn't expect that the great wizard of the City of Beasts would be so difficult to deal with. Without time to sigh too much, Su Qianqian hurriedly walked into the hidden stone cave and picked up the antidote on the table. The antidote was wrapped in a piece of animal skin and placed neatly on the stone table. "Something seems wrong." Su Qianqian looked at the antidote in her hand and suddenly frowned in confusion. The antidote was placed too neatly, as if it was waiting for someone to take it away. Just a second after Su Qianqian reacted, countless golden feather arrows with murderous intent shot from behind her. At the critical moment, Su Qianqian used both hands and condensed an ice crystal barrier at the fastest speed in her life to resist the flying golden feather arrow. The ice crystals condensed by the 5th level ice-type ability should be indestructible, but under such a powerful feather arrow attack, countless holes were pierced through them. Su Qianqian looked at the golden feather arrow that was only separated from her by a thin layer of ice crystals. She had never felt that death was so close to her. If she had reacted just a second slower, these arrows would have pierced her body. You didn't leave after all." At the entrance of a stone cave, the great wizard walked in slowly, and following him in was Duo Luo. Didn't he get knocked unconscious by himself? Su Qianqian was shocked and realized that she had been set up. The antidote was deliberately placed there to lure her into the trap. She gritted her teeth and no longer cared about hiding her body. She took out the thorn seeds from her storage ring and threw them at the witch opposite. The thorn seeds grew larger in an instant, and countless vines sprang up from the ground, pushing the already narrow and dilapidated stone cave so far that it could no longer support itself, and collapsed with a loud bang. At the moment when the great wizard's golden feather arrow shot over again, Su Qianqian used the force to leap onto the vines and jumped out of the broken stone cave in one go. Originally thought she could escape, looked back and saw that the great wizard had actually chased her out. With a wave of his hand, countless golden feather arrows shot towards her. No, how come this guy can still be chased out like a dogskin plaster? Su Qianqian quickly dodged the attack of the golden feather arrow and ran towards the crowded street next to her. She just didn't believe that this great witch could find her among the crowd. However, Su Qianqian was disappointed. The great witch also followed into the crowd and continued to chase her. Su Qianqian was about to cry. How on earth did this great witch track her down? She's clearly hidden. Before, in the stone cave, he needed to rely on the stone table to test his position, but now on the street with so many orcs, it was as if he could suddenly see her and kept chasing her. Why is that? While running away, Su Qianqian took a glance and suddenly found a hole in the lower right corner of her invisibility cloak. It was obviously the hole that was pierced by the golden feather arrow just now. This invisibility cloak is produced in the magic plane. It is made of special material and is almost indestructible. However, a hole can be pierced through it, which shows how powerful the golden feather arrow is. But could it be that the great wizard was able to track her so accurately just because of this hole in the cloak? Realizing this, Su Qianqian rushed into a corner next to a cave, then quickly took off her invisibility cloak and stuffed it into the storage ring in one go. After doing all this, she quickly glanced at the great wizard in the crowd. He really seemed to have lost his target, standing in the crowd looking around with a frown on his face. Seeing this scene, Su Qianqian finally breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, the golden feather arrow carried the breath of the Great Witch and was stained on the invisibility cloak, so the Great Witch could track her by this breath. It seems that the invisibility cloak is temporarily unusable. Su Qianqian was just about to take out the disguise cloak from the storage ring and put it on, when suddenly, a slender, white hand reached out from the cave next to her and pulled her into the cave. Su Qianqian was caught off guard. Just as she was about to resist, her back was embraced in a warm embrace. The man's lazy and hoarse voice sounded in her ears. Qianqian, hearing this familiar voice, Su Qianqian paused, and her struggling hands unconsciously dropped. "Inshua, why are you here?" Su Qianqian reacted and subconsciously turned back to look at him, but was dragged by the man behind her and forcibly pressed onto the stone bed next to her. The next second, Inshua pressed forward, quickly picked up the animal skin blanket beside him, and covered the two of them tightly with it. "What are you going to do?" Su Qianqian's surprised voice was about to come out, but was tightly covered by Inshua's slender fingers. The next moment, Duo Luo's voice was heard from the cave entrance. "Strange, I clearly heard a sound coming from here just now." As he spoke, he cast his gaze towards the two people on the stone bed. Although they were covered by an animal skin blanket, it was not difficult to see that there was a male and a female underneath. Duo Luo frowned in confusion and walked towards the stone bed subconsciously. Listening to the footsteps slowly approaching, Su Qianqian's heart almost rose to her throat, and she dared not breathe. At this moment, Inshua suddenly grabbed her chin with one hand, leaned over, and kissed her hard. This kiss was too sudden and Su Qianqian instinctively pushed it away, but Inshua pressed the back of her head with one hand and held her wrists against the top of her head with the other. The kiss went from gentle exploration at the beginning to a fierce bite. Su Qianqian was almost suffocated by the kiss, sobbing, and tears welled up in her eyes. Fragrance lingered on the tip of the tongue, and ambiguous gasps overflowed from between their mouths. Who originally wanted to go forward to take a closer look, heard the noises, and suddenly his ears turned red. He quickly looked away and turned away. As soon as he left, the man who was pressing on her and kissing her hard finally stopped slowly. He panted softly, and his slightly withdrawn lips opened a hint of ambiguous silver thread. Su Qianqian raised her head dizzily and met those silver-gray eyes. Her flushed face was reflected in them, and her swollen lips were slightly open. Inshua's eyes became deeper and deeper. "Inshua." Su Qianqian's throat was inexplicably dry. As soon as she opened her mouth, the man leaned over again and hugged her tightly. "Don't move." The man hugged her tighter, buried his head in her neck, and said in a low and hoarse voice with a slight tremor, "Let me hug you." As he spoke, the man's lips brushed her earlobe. Ambiguous and hot. Su Qianqian paused, then pursed her lips helplessly, and then, as he wished, she stopped moving and let Inshua hold her like this. She stared blankly at the ceiling of the cave. She originally thought that she would have a lot to say after seeing Inshua, but from the current situation, it seemed that anything she said would be redundant. An unknown amount of time, the man's arms that were tightly holding her loosened gradually, and he raised his head from the side of her neck, looking at her with his beautiful silver-gray eyes without blinking. "Why don't you resist?" Su Qianqian shrugged helplessly. "I resisted, but failed." After saying that, she poked his face with her finger and said in a slightly teasing tone, "Why don't you continue to pretend to have lost your memory?" Inshua's body stiffened instantly. You have always known."
Su Qianqian nodded.
Upon hearing this, Inshua's handsome face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, "Why don't you expose me?" Su Qianqian said, "I see you are quite addicted to pretending." Inshua sighed deeply, then lowered his head and hugged her again. His voice buried in her neck was filled with infinite apology and regret.
I'm sorry, Changkan.
I shouldn't have treated you like that before. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. You can hit me or scold me if you want, but please don't abandon me, okay? Listening to the man's repeated apologies, Su Qianqian pursed her lips slightly, and after a long silence, she slowly said, "Inshua, I didn't abandon you that day. I left temporarily, because of unavoidable reasons. I came back to look for you, but you were gone. You came back to find me?" Upon hearing this, Inshua suddenly raised his head and looked at her in surprise. "Really? Qianqian, you really came back to find me. I am so happy. You didn't abandon me." After that, he lowered his head again, rubbing it against her neck, and said with uncontrollable joy, "That's great. Qianqian, I will never leave you again. I will follow you wherever you go." The man's silver hair made her neck itchy, and her heart itchy too. Su Qianqian could only reach out and push him away helplessly. That's enough. She thought about it and decided to take this opportunity to ask Inshua what he had fed her in the first place. Just as she was about to open her mouth, Inshua suddenly raised his head and stared at her seriously. "By the way, Qianqian, what is your relationship with the orcs from the Grey Wolf tribe? Why did they come to me to ask about you?" "What?" People from the Grey Wolf tribe came to Inshua to ask about themselves. Could it be Lang Yan? Su Qianqian was stunned for a moment, then reacted and asked quickly, "When did it happen?" "Not long ago." Inshua lowered his eyes, his voice slightly unhappy. "He followed the scent of the wandering orcs and found the forbidden area of our Silver Eagle family. Later, he followed the scent to the city of all beasts. He saved me because I smelled like you." Hearing this, Su Qianqian couldn't help but show a bit of helplessness on her face. She had clearly already left the Grey Wolf tribe, so why was Lang Yan still so stubborn in looking for her? "So, you are here today because he came to see you?" After all, the only people who knew that she went to rescue the slaves alone were Lang Yan, besides Shifeng and the others. After she left, Lang Yan must have gone to find Inshua secretly.
"Yeah."
Inshua nodded reluctantly. "He told me that you went to rescue those slaves. I knew he wanted to find out your identity from me, so I didn't tell him. But I still couldn't help but come to find you. It is true." Su Qianqian lowered her eyes and pursed her lips. Su Mu's identity could indeed not be hidden from Lang Yan.
"But
why did Lang Yan come to find me? Was it because his identity as a holy female was exposed, and the people of the Grey Wolf tribe asked him to come and find me?" Realizing this possibility, Su Qianqian suddenly felt depressed and indescribably uncomfortable. Looking at Su Qianqian's depressed look because of another man, Inshua felt an inexplicable sourness rising in his heart. He gritted his teeth, suddenly lowered his head, looked at the girl's graceful neck and clearly visible collarbone. His eyes darkened, and he simply bit down. "You, what are you doing?" Su Qianqian felt pain, and she quickly reached out to push him away. But the more she pushed, the more ruthless his soft lips became. He held on to the delicate skin with great force, sucking, caressing, licking, and biting, as if he wanted to leave some mark on it. Su Qianqian's fingertips went numb. She gritted her teeth and finally pushed Inshua away.
"You.
If you keep doing this, I will ignore you. Then you are not allowed to think about him anymore," Inshua said in a muffled voice. "I didn't." After she finished speaking, she felt that what she said was very strange and turned her head awkwardly. "The relationship between Lang Yan and me is not what you think." "What's the relationship?"
"He
saved my life." Su Qianqian got angry when she talked about this, and couldn't help but glared at Inshua. "It was you who caused all this. If this guy hadn't locked herself in that tree hole, would she have jumped out of the tree hole and been taken to the Grey Wolf tribe by Lang Yan?" The author has something to say. Of West City is the highest combat power besides the city lord, so stealing the antidote is a little bit difficult. Everyone please stop complaining that the heroine is stupid and useless. She is just a girl in her early 20s and has not experienced much of the world. She is definitely no match for this old fox who has lived for hundreds of years. Only by being tricked can she learn her lesson. It is impossible for her to become invincible all of a sudden just because of the golden finger of the system.
People grow up step by step.
But at this moment, Shua seemed to have not realized his mistake. He lowered his eyes to look at the kiss mark left on Su Qianqian's neck, licked the corner of his lips unconsciously, and said, "It's already difficult to deal with the White Tiger tribe, and you have provoked the orcs of the Grey Wolf tribe. Qianqian, what should I do with you?" Suddenly, his eyes fixed on the small stone tied around Su Qianqian's neck. "What is this?" Su Qianqian was stunned for a moment, and after she reacted, she subconsciously covered the boundary stone tied around her neck. "No, nothing." Seeing how nervous she was, Shua narrowed his eyes dangerously and asked, "Who gave it to you?" Su Qianqian rolled her eyes at him. "This is my own stuff."
So,
"You disappeared these few days just for this thing?"